The story begins with the fact that some types of weapons are only in the hands of gifted people. These are divine weapons. Such weapons are the materialization of a person's soul, possessing unique abilities. One noble family once defeated an evil god. The Duke's house, catastrophe. People from this family are born with a golden spoon in their mouth. They have a strong body, incredible talent, and divine weapons. Bell was born into this family. Of course, he will become a hero who will proudly wield his sacred weapon. Or rather, it should have been so, but at the oracle ceremony, where a person's divine weapons are determined, he received nothing. So Bell became the only loser in the entire history of his family. Some time later, Sarah and Jessica watch as Zane mocks Bell. He pushed him and told him to get out of here, because he is a disgrace. The second son of the catastrophe family, Zane. He grabbed Bell by the hair and said that nobodies like him, who are unable to summon divine weapons, have no place here. The youngest daughter, Sarah. The eldest daughter, Jessica. The youngest daughter calls out the protagonist's name with pity and starts running towards him, but the eldest sister trips her up with a malicious smile. Jessica puts her foot on Sarah's head and asks what she's up to. She was told to just watch what's happening. Let her watch what happens to nobodies like them. Belle sees Jessica bullying her younger sister and calling out to her, tries to run up to her, but Zane grabs him by the hair and punches him in the stomach. He smiles as he punches Belle in the face and asks him if he's sure he can handle him. At this time, Jessica kicks Sarah in the ground and says she's a mongrel. They were the children of concubines, which is why they were called mongrel. They were bullied at every opportunity. After some time, Belle and Sarah were sitting alone on the grass and he told her to forgive him. It was all his fault. The little sister with a smile on her face told him not to worry, she would always be by his side. Belle with a serious face told her that he would become stronger, even without the divine weapon. He promises that he will protect her with his life. She with a smile on her face hugged him and thanked him for his promise. Alas, he did not keep his promise. A few days later, he was kicked out of the house. Belle with tears in his eyes, standing in the rain, thought that without him, Sarah would be all alone with them. He needed strength. He had to get her out of there. Possession of ordinary weapons will not do anything against the one who holds the divine, so he must do everything to become stronger. He has no choice. After some time, Belle walked into a weapon shop, put a bag of coins on the table, and confidently told the seller that he would take one of each weapon. The seller asked him in confusion, what is he going to start a war? 2 years later, the protagonist rides a horse towards a crowd of armed orcs. He laid out his various weapons and said with a serious face that it was time to begin. Belle deftly swings his weapons and kills all the orcs. Behind him, a mysterious man in a white cloak stood on top of a cliff. He called out to the protagonist and asked why he always carries so many weapons with him. He has to, because there is no God, right? He had forgotten why he set out on his journey. His task was to find a person he could trust with this. Someone with great heroic potential. The mysterious man, using magic, strikes lightning into the ground in front of Belle and a scabbard for a sword appears at the site of the explosion. The man says that he gives it to him. The protagonist grabbed the item the mysterious man had created and was surprised to hear that it was just a sheath. Belle thought that it was the divine sheath of Avalon. A one-of-a-kind divine weapon that could be used to store divine weapons and pass them on to others. It was passed down from generation to generation, each time increasing in power. It now contained the weapons of 5 great heroes. If someone could master each of them, the most powerful divine weapon in the world would be in their hands. If someone can master each of them, then that person will have the most powerful divine weapon in the world in their hands, and that person must be him. The dragon created a fiery flame in its mouth, preparing to shoot the protagonist. Belle, with a confident face, holding the sheath in his hands, said that he really didn't care about the dragon's attacks. He, holding the shining sheath for the sword in his hand, told Avalon to appear. In an instant, the wind shield of Achilles appeared in his hand, and he deftly repelled the dragon's attack. Belle said with a serious face that it was a perfect storm. And holding a huge hammer in his hands, he jumped on the dragon and made a crushing blow, said that the thunder hammer Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. The mysterious man said that he had mastered Avalon, so let him go to his sister, because even an S-rank paladin would not be an obstacle for him. After some time, riding a horse, Belle thought that 5 years had passed since his exile, but now he had the strength to protect his dear little sister. Let Sarah wait for him, because he was coming. After some time, he rode to his native village and saw how everything was blazing with bright flames. He asked with shock on his face what happened. After some time, he found himself near the house and saw a flag. Belle with shock on his face thought that this was the coat of arms of the Duchy of Roth-Windsor. He saw warriors in blue armor fighting warriors in red armor, and wondered if this was a civil war? Where is Sarah? Her brother is back, but where is she? After a while, Belle runs up to the door and, going inside, sees his younger sister dead on the floor. He approaches her with shock on his face and, lifting her up, calls out her name. The protagonist remembers the words of his younger sister, so that he should not worry, because she will always be with him. Belle, with tears in his eyes, in horror, holding his dead sister in his arms, screams and asks why is this all happening, why did he gain this power? He wonders if he promised that he would return and protect her. Suddenly, a magical charge flies into the protagonist at a furious speed and pierces him through. Belle wonders if this mana seems to be the mana of a master of divine weapons of the S rank. Albert asked him that he was Belle. He heard that he was banished a long time ago. The protagonist, bleeding, wondered who this was. Did he know him? Albert said that it didn't matter, because soon he would be reunited with his beloved sister. Let him be a good brother, and keep her company forever. Belle asked with an aggressive face, how dare he do this? A magical charge flies into the protagonist again and pierces him through. Belle thinks that he will die without even taking revenge. He will not accept it. In an instant, he finds himself in the past. The protagonist, with surprise on his face, wondered where he is. This is the Holocaust Cathedral, but how? Didn't he just die? The oracle standing in front of him said that it was time to begin the ceremony. Belle wondered that the ceremony meant that he had gone back in time. The oracle told him to stretch out his hands and present his divine weapon. The protagonist, holding out his hands, thought that his divine weapon, at that moment he had not yet found Avalon, so he would have to start over, he would be driven away again. Suddenly magic shone in Belle's hands and he, having created a scabbard, thought that this was impossible. There was no doubt that this was Avalon. He could start all over again, right? He would change fate with his power. This was how his real life would begin. The oracle said with surprise that divine scabbards were such a rarity, but unfortunately. Before he could finish listening, Belle asked with a confident smile that he would not be able to fight with a scabbard. Did the oracle think so? He said in surprise that no, not at all. The protagonist with a confident face said that he should not worry, because this was the best divine weapon in the whole world. After a while, Belle runs down the corridor and thinks that if he returned to the past, then Sarah should be alive. She is probably in her room now. The protagonist confidently enters the room, inside which Sarah is sitting on a chair. She sees him and calls out his name with a smile on her face. Belle thought that his little sister, he hasn't seen her for so long, she is the same as he remembered her then. Sarah ran up to him with admiration and asked how the ceremony went. Belle silently hugged her and thought that he is so glad that she is safe. He is so sorry, let her forgive him for not being able to protect her in her past life. But this time he will not allow a tragedy, she will never experience pain or sadness again, because he will not let anyone hurt her. Sarah said that she was hurt by his hugs. Belle abruptly removed his hand and excitedly apologized to her. The younger sister with a smile on her face said that everything is fine, his hugs make her happier. The protagonist's face had tears from her words. Sarah stroked his head and told him that no matter what happened, everything would be okay because he had her. Suddenly Zane enters the room and says with confidence that he found Belle. He walked up to the main character, put his arm over his shoulder and asked that something very interesting happened at the ceremony, right? Belle with a displeased face thought that it seemed that the priest told him everything and that's why he came to make fun of him. Belle calmly said that yes, it is a scabbard. Zane laughed hard at his words and said that it is not even a weapon, but for such a half-breed mongrel it will do. He asked with a confident face that how is he going to fight with them, a couple of idiots? Belle clenched his fists and seriously told him to take his words back. Zane with an aggressive face asked how dare he be impudent to him? He with an aggressive face swung his fist and said that he will teach him how to talk to elders properly. Belle deftly and quickly hit him and said that he warned him. Let him never dare to insult Sir again. Zane created a fire spear with a furious face and said that he will make him cry and beg for forgiveness, and if he does not obey, he will roast him like a pig on a spit. Belle with a confident face thinks that this is an igniting fire spear, seriously, but so be it. He tells Sarah to step back and, patting her head, said that everything will be fine, let her leave it to him. Belle created a sheath in his hand and with a confident face looks at Zane. He laughed again and with a serious face asked that he really thinks that he can defeat him with this sheath? He is an E-rank paladin, he has no chance. Belle thought that paladins are divided into ranks depending on their strength. When a person receives a divine weapon, he is assigned an F rank. As soon as he manages to pour his mana into the weapon, he is assigned an E rank. D rank can use special attacks, and to rise to B rank, it is necessary to awaken the unique abilities of the divine weapon. Zane is so proud that he got E rank at 14, but he still has a lot to improve. Belle chuckled with a confident smile. Zane asked aggressively, what is he laughing at? The protagonist with the same confident smile said that it's all because he's acting cute. Zane swung the fire spear with wild aggression and said that he's a damn mudgrove, he'll show him where he belongs. Belle touched the sheath and said for the sword of light to appear. In an instant, a sword appeared in his hand and he said that it's Caliban. The protagonist cuts Zane's spear in two. He wonders in horror, what kind of sword is this? Zane falls to the floor and a sharp spear tip is stuck next to him. He thought in complete horror that this is impossible, because the sheath was empty. Belle walked up to him and with a confident face asked, what now? Will he make him cry and beg for forgiveness? Zane aggressively said that he tricked him. If he knew he had a weapon, he will not get away with this so easily. He quickly runs out of the room, but the protagonist, running after him, asked where he was going. They had not finished speaking yet. Belle creates a flaming gun Ragnarok and, aiming the gun at Zane, fires the gun. The bullet flies past his face and, hitting the wall, explodes. He looks in horror at the protagonist's weapon and thinks that it is a gun. But he just had a sword in his hands. He couldn't have several divine weapons. Belle with a serious face told him to never mess with Sarah or him again. He aimed the gun at Zane's head again and told him to remember that if he touched her again, he would put a bullet in his forehead. He ran out of the room screaming in wild horror. Sarah said in surprise, "Wow." The protagonist walked up to her and asked how she was feeling. The younger sister said with surprise that she was so afraid that Zane would beat them again. She asked that it was his divine weapon, right? Belle asked with a confident smile that didn't he say he would handle everything? Sarah said with an admiring smile that he was incredible. The protagonist thought with a serious face that he wouldn't let anyone wipe the smile off her face. After a while, Zane ran to Galleon and told him about Belle's incident. The Lord said with a serious face that he understood. The protagonist had obtained multiple divine weapons. The Duke of Catastrophe, Galleon. Zane knelt down and said that his weapon was unusual. He must have made a deal with the devil, so they must exorcise him now. The Lord stood up and walked past Zane. He asked with surprise that where did he go? Galleon said that he went to visit Belle. He needed to see it with his own eyes. After some time, the protagonist is lying on the bed in his room. He thought that he managed to defeat Zane, but he is still in the body of a child. He is completely exhausted. It is difficult for him to control mana. He was going to shoot a fire bullet, but only a normal one came out. Now he is only strong at the level of F rank. He closed his eyes with a tired face and said that this cannot continue. Belle remembered that then the Roth-Windsor family attacked. This is another famous family that has a long feud with the catastrophe. The reason for their attack could be anything. He is sure that the dark silhouette that killed him and Sir was one of the Roth-Windsor family. Belle stretched out his hand to the ceiling and said that this time he will protect his sister. He thought that for this he needs to raise his status in this house. After some time, Galleon entered the room and said that they have not seen each other for a long time. The protagonist was surprised to think that Galleon had fought alone against the evil god and the famous monster Tartaros in the great battle that had taken place 20 years ago. He had walked through the dark continent where monsters lived and was nicknamed the Holy Sword of Genesis. Zane was standing next to the Lord, and Belle thought that everything was clear to him. Apparently Galleon knew something, but that was even good. The best way to improve his status was to make his father pay attention. The protagonist knelt down on one knee and said that they hadn't seen him for a long time. The Lord, with a serious face, said that he had really changed. Today, he had come here as his father, and they needed to talk. Belle, with a serious face, said that he was afraid, because one wrong word and the conversation would get out of control. They had to be responsible for their actions and words. The Lord, with a thoughtful face, told him to get up from his knees. Galleon, with a stern look, said that if he thought so, he would support him. Belle wondered with a worried face, what kind of pressure was this? What a frightening look he had. The Lord asked seriously that he and Zane had a fight, right? He had forbidden fighting in his house, so why did he hurt his brother, whom he should respect? Zane, standing at the door with a sly smile, said that this was the end, because no one in this house could stand up to their father. Belle said with a serious face that he was angry, because Zane had offended his younger sister. The Lord asked with a frightening look that he had broken the rules because of a small offense. The protagonist said with a serious face that yes, that was true, and he did not regret it. Galleon asked that he did not regret breaking his rules. Belle confidently said that abandoning those you love is a real shame for a paladin. He will protect his sister, Even if the opponent is his older brother, this is the path of the knight he has chosen. The Lord quickly takes out his sword and, holding it to the protagonist's throat, asks that even if his opponent is him? Belle, with a confident face, says yes, even if he is his opponent. Galleon, smiling, says he likes it, he will pretend nothing happened. Zane asks in surprise, why would he pretend nothing happened? The Lord looks at him menacingly, and asks that not only did he lose to his brother in a duel, but he also bullied his sister? It's a shame, let him not show himself to him. Left alone in the room, Galleon says he understands the protagonist. And it was a brave act to express his opinion, knowing what could follow. Belle, sighing, says he asks for his forgiveness. The Lord says no, because for a member of the Catastrophe family, it's wonderful. Now, he wants him to show him his power, let him bear his divine armor. Belle created a scabbard in his hands and said that it was his divine weapon, Avalon. The Lord thought with great surprise that this was impossible. He had heard of the legendary divine weapon that contained the spirit of the first paladin. The very divine armament passed down from generation to generation by the greatest heroes. Galleon crossed his arms and asked what Zane said, that he used both a sword and a gun, was that true? Belle said yes, they were both inside the scabbard. The protagonist created a pistol and a sword from the scabbard. The Lord thought with surprise that he pulled out a divine weapon from the scabbard. Belle said that he could use 2 weapons at the same time, but there were 3 more types inside the scabbard. Galleon thought with surprise that to think that his son was a future hero. He said that he was not interested in weaklings, he would expect a lot from him, let him work harder. After some time, Belle sits alone in the room near the bed and excitedly says that how he presses with his aura, but now he expects a lot from him, so he must show his strength. Although he is still a child, he needs to get D rank as soon as possible. And he must defeat as many monsters as possible, increasing mana. He said with a confident smile that he will start by hunting orcs in the forest. After some time, at night, an unknown animal cuts up all the monsters in the forest and howls aggressively at the moon. The next day, Belle walks through the forest and says that this forest brings back memories for him. After being expelled from home in his past life, he trained here for a while. But it is strange that he went to the very depths. Where are all the monsters? He did not even meet an orc even once on his entire journey. The protagonist notices the severed limbs of an orc and feels himself being attacked from behind. He abruptly takes out his sword and repels the attack. A huge fenrir stood in front of him. Belle thought that he understood the reason why he did not meet monsters. He only wanted to hunt orcs, and not stumble upon a D-rank monster. He has almost no mana, at best his strength is like that of an E-rank. Honestly, he would like to just run away, flashing his heels, but as soon as he turns away, he will immediately kill him. Fenrir quickly attacks him, but the protagonist manages to dodge. He creates a Ragnarok gun and starts shooting at it, but the animal dodges the bullets. The protagonist thought that his bullets are too slow due to the lack of mana, and if the gun does not work. Belle created a sword and ran to meet the ominous beast. Fenrir swung his claws, but the protagonist deftly dodged and, realizing that this was the most opportune moment, strikes with a sword, but the beast instantly jumped away from Belle's attack. He thought with an excited face that in the past he could easily kill him, but in this guise he will not be able to keep up with him. Fenrir attacks again and hits the protagonist's leg. The beast begins to strike with lightning speed, and Belle at this moment tries to repel his attacks. He thinks that everything is bad, because he cannot dodge. The protagonist screamed loudly. Fenrir at this moment opened his mouth wide. Belle fearfully thinks that he has only recently reincarnated. Here he will definitely not die. He creates a green shield and prepares to take the beast's blow, but Fenrir jumps over it and crashes into him. The protagonist flies back from the beast's blow. The weapon fell out of his hands. Belle thought that if everything continues like this, he will die. His sword, gun and shield are useless. He is sure that he will not strike with a hammer, so there is only one weapon left. Belle, with a serious face, pressing his hand to the wound, said that he will have to use it. Fenrir swings his paw with huge claws, but the protagonist with a calm face said, "Come, Aegis." The beast missed the attack. A purple glove appeared on Belle's hand. He said with a serious face that he really did not want to use it, but in such a situation he could not act otherwise. Fenrir with an aggressive muzzle attacks the protagonist. Belle thinks that now he is faster, but in an instant he found himself on the beast's head, holding a hammer in his hands, and said that Fenrir will not be able to hit him anymore. The protagonist deals a crushing blow with a hammer. Belle thought that this is Aegis, a glove of darkness. It increases a person's physical abilities in an instant, but not only destruction, over time it becomes stronger. The protagonist with red eyes said that the beast should say goodbye to life, let it try to attack. a pathetic cur. Bell delivers many lightning-fast, destructive blows with his hammer, and finally he delivers the final blow to the beast's head. The protagonist, removing the glove from his hand, said that thank God that he dealt with it quickly. The dark divine weapon has special abilities, but the more time passes in battle with it, the deeper it sucks the owner into the abyss of darkness. Bell sits on one knee in front of the dead body of the beast and, holding a hammer in his hand, asked where the hell Fenrir came from in the forest. He is sure it was not there before, but it does not matter, there is no point in worrying about it. The protagonist saw that his hammer was sparkling with lightning and said that he realized that after defeating the beast, he can use its attributes. Hunting strong monsters is more effective than hunting whole hordes of weak ones. At this time, Sarah is sitting by the tree with a wreath of flowers in her hands. She asked with a smile on her face if her brother would like this wreath. Suddenly Jessica snatched the wreath from her hands and asked what kind of nonsense was this, a flower crown? She said with a cheeky smile that it would suit a half-breed like her just fine. Sarah called out to her with a scared face. Jessica showed the wreath to Spencer and asked him what he thought about it. He said with a smile on his face that what she said was true. Jessica threw the wreath into the air and Spencer instantly cut the wreath in half with his whip. Jessica stretched out her hand and created a gun and told her younger sister that she was incredibly bored, so they needed to have some fun. She said with a smile on her face and shot at Sarah, saying that it was time for target practice. In an instant, Bell ran up to his little sister and blocked the bullet with his sheath. He said to Jessica with a serious face that they should play together since she was so bored. He was just looking for an opportunity to test his divine weapon. Jessica with a dissatisfied face told Spencer to deal with this trash. He confidently took out his whip and struck the ground, and at the place of the strike, the grass instantly turned into ice. Bell with a serious face thought that Spencer is a paladin of the D rank, whose divine weapon is an ice whip. He is much stronger than Zane, who is only an E rank. Spencer with a confident face said that he will freeze his legs so that he will not be able to run away anywhere, and then his arms and torso so that he will not move a finger. And after that, he will disfigure his face beyond recognition. The protagonist said that he was only making speeches and maybe, for the tears shed by Sir, he will suffer. Spencer with a confident smile told him not to look at him like that, he will turn into an icicle. He strikes at Bell, but the protagonist deftly dodged his attack. Jessica asked with a surprised face that he dodged. Bell thought that for a D rank he was pretty good at using his weapon, but compared to the training he had in his past life, this was kindergarten. Sarah looked at what was happening with admiration and said that it was incredible. It was like he was dancing. Spencer with a dissatisfied face said that he was just dodging the attacks. Bell with a confident face said that so be it, he would not dodge anymore, because he was wondering how he was going to turn him into an icicle, or whatever else he said. Spencer with an aggressive face said that he was even more stupid than he thought, but as he wished, he would freeze him to death. The protagonist stood in an open pose and took the blows of the whip. His legs and arms were immediately covered in ice. Spencer with a smile on his face said that now he was immobilized, and now he can. Bell with a smile on his face interrupted him and asked that this was all he could do. Now it's his turn, Ragnarok. A gun appears in the frozen hand of the protagonist in an instant, destroying the ice. Spencer asks in fear, what is this second divine weapon? The protagonist shoots at the ice on his body and, having destroyed it, says that he can move again. Jessica, with wild fear, wonders why he has two weapons, and how he can use attributes. Bell, with a confident smile, pointed the gun at him and said that it was time to pay for what he did. Spencer created a wall of ice and with a wild smile told him to try to hit through this thickness of ice. Bell shot at the wall of ice and said that it was easy as pie. The bullet from the protagonist's gun pierced the ice wall and hit Spencer right in the stomach, and he fell to the ground with a wild scream. Jessica, with horror on her face, wondered that he pierced the ice. Is he really stronger than a D rank? She only has an E rank, so she has no chance. Bell confidently approached her and said that it was all over. Jessica, with great fear, created a gun in her hands and shot at the protagonist, but missed because her hands were shaking. She, with fear, told him to get away from her. Backing away, she tripped and fell to the ground. Bell approached her and with a serious face told her not to dare approach Sarah anymore. Jessica, with a wild scream, ran away from him. The younger sister ran up to the protagonist and hugged him with a smile on her face. She, with a worried face, asked that he was okay. Was he hurt? Bell said that everything was fine. The main thing was that she was safe. Sarah, with admiration, said that he was so strong. The main character said with a smile on his face that he would become even stronger to protect her. She hands him a homemade item from flowers and said that she made wreaths, but one is no longer there, so let him take the one she made for herself. Sarah placed a wreath on the protagonist's head and thanked him for always protecting her. Belle thought with great emotion that a gift from Sir, one day all the people will honor him. But there are still some problems. Even the knights and servants despise them for being the children of a concubine, and even though Jessica and Zane were defeated, it will not change anything. They will start bullying Sir again, so as her brother, he must show his status in the house to protect her. That is all that is needed now. After a while, Galleon is standing near a tree. A leaf falls next to him, and he quickly cuts it into 3 pieces. Belle comes up to him and he asks with a serious face what he wants. The protagonist said that he wanted to ask him for permission. The lord with a stern look asked what he needed permission for. Belle knelt down on one knee and said to let him take the exam to get C rank. Galleon asked him what he wants to take the exam. The protagonist said yes, he wants to serve the king as a member of their family. He thinks that in exchange for the royal family recognizing their status, they are required to carry out their orders. Usually, the orders are like protecting important people, destroying monsters, and so on. The fastest way to improve your status in the family is to get achievements for difficult orders, and to accept them, you need a higher rank. Galleon said that he sees that he is full of ambition, but it is too early. You need to become a full-fledged paladin before you can get C rank. Right now, he is only F rank, he only recently received his weapon. If he wants to increase his rank, he should start with the exam for E rank. Belle took out the cloth in which a huge fawn was wrapped and asked that maybe this would change his decision. The lord was surprised to think that this was Fenrir's fawn. He asked the protagonist how he got this fawn. Belle created a hammer and throwing it on his shoulder, said that with difficulty, but he managed to defeat this cur. Galleon was very surprised to think that he can use attributes. So he got the weapon traits and defeated Fenrir single-handedly. He is clearly stronger than C rank. The lord said that it was good, he would let him take the exam, and let him not dare to disappoint him. Belle said with a confident smile that of course he would not disappoint him. After some time, the protagonist walks down the street and says that there are many applicants, but probably for many, C rank is a kind of ceiling. He passes by guys who say that there are victims every year. They look at Belle in surprise and say that this is a child. The protagonist approached the woman and asked that they accept applications here. She asked in surprise who he was. Does he have an escort? Belle said that he wants to take the exam. The woman exclaimed with great surprise and said that it seems he will have to come back later when he grows up. The protagonist with a serious face told her not to treat him like a child, because he is also a paladin. Lennox came up to them and said that it was time to stop playing paladin. There was no place for little kids here, let him get lost. Belle looked at him in fear and wondered, what kind of guy was this? It wouldn't be easy to deal with him. The people in the crowd said that Lennox was the strongest D-rank paladin. His divine weapon was a wind sword. They said that it hit 8 times with each swing. Lennox said with a smile on his face that if he wanted to get to C rank, he should at least be a little strong like him. Belle thought with a calm face, what did that mean that he was the strongest at this rank? Lennox approached the protagonist and asked if he even had a divine weapon. Belle put his hand on the sheath and said that it was his divine weapon. Lennox laughed loudly and asked, what is this, a leg weapon? He doesn't believe that this is his weapon, it's just trash. In the crowd, a man asked a woman what such a useless divine weapon existed. The woman chuckled and said that it was a blessing that she was not born as worthless as him. Lennox said with a serious face that he did not mind if an ignorant child wanted to die here, but he did not like that his participation in this exam could not put them on equal terms. Let him run to his mother, a pauper. Belle with a calm face told the woman to register him immediately. She asked in surprise that he was serious. To participate, one must be a D-rank paladin, or have a letter of recommendation from a B-rank paladin or higher. Belle handed her the letter and said that with this letter, he would definitely be able to participate, as stated in the rules. The woman opened the letter and thought, who would recommend this young man? The letter is from Duke Galleon, so this boy is the Duke's son? After a while, the knight said that he would explain how the C-rank exam works. First, they will go to the dungeon using the teleportation stone. Then, they need to return the light gem on the 5th floor in 5 hours. There are 3 stones in total. The 3 people who can complete the task will receive C rank. Lennox said with a smile that he will be one of them. The knight asked if all the participants are ready. The paladins raised their weapons up and shouted loudly. The knight said that in that case, they will begin the exam. Belle walked up to the teleportation stone and instantly found himself in the dungeon. He asked that it seemed that they were all sent to different places on this floor, but where should he go? The protagonist went to one of the sides and thought that the dungeon was huge, but 5 hours would be enough to clear it. He had a chance, the main thing is not to waste time. There are many monsters in the dungeon. The paladin's mana becomes stronger depending on the number of monsters killed. Bell created a sword and said with a smile on his face that it was time to kill them all. At this time, a group of paladins are fighting monsters. They understand with worried faces that they will not be able to defeat the monsters, when suddenly Lennox appeared and, having cut the monsters, said that they are pathetic. The paladins say that he is great. He again cut the monsters into pieces with lightning-fast movements, and with a smile on his face said that it is so, because he is not like them. One of the paladins said that it is a pity, but, unfortunately it is so, but thanks to him they were able to pass. Lennox self-confidently said that in that case, let them look at him with envy, because weaklings are better off acting like weaklings. After some time, Lennox and two paladins approached a large door. He said that this is the last room and he hopes that there is something interesting in this room. Having opened the door, they saw strong and varied monsters in front of them. The paladins shout that there are a lot of D-rank monsters here. Lennox said that there is an altar in the depths. It will smash everyone to pieces again. He makes lightning strikes at the monster, but does not pierce it. Lennox said that it is very hard. The monster hits him on the body, causing him to fall to the ground. He asks in fear that his sword does not cut through the monster. The paladins asked him excitedly, how so? Suddenly, other monsters attacked them and one of the paladins said that they were also attacked. He swung his weapon and struck the monster, but it instantly returned to its form. The paladin said in fear that attacks with strikes do not work on this monster. The female paladin, swinging her fire sword, said that she cannot reach the monster with her sword. Lennox excitedly wonders, is this the last room of the C-rank exam? There are only monsters with resistance to one weapon here. The monster swings and prepares to deliver a fatal blow to Lennox, but suddenly his body flies into small pieces. Bell, holding a huge hammer in his hands, said that he was almost late. He got carried away with farming. Lennox said with surprise that he was the one, Galacta. Suddenly a monster attacks the main character, but he creates a sword and masterfully cuts it. Lennox asked with great surprise that his weapon had changed. Bell creates a gun and shoots the harpy 3 times. The paladins ask with great surprise that his weapon is not just a sword. Lennox wonders in shock that where did he get several weapons, and even the ability to use them? Bell, cruelly dealing with all the monsters, said that there was almost no time left. They needed to finish quickly. Lennox wonders with wild shock that he didn't even think that he was a child. The main character, having dealt with all the monsters, climbed the stairs to the altar. He asked what these light spheres were. The paladins ran up to him and asked him in admiration how he was able to defeat everyone by himself, and how he was carrying so many weapons. They turned around to look at Lennox and said that compared to him, he acted so confident but lost, he was a weakling. The paladins turned around to look at the altar and said that they were now C-rank. Bell created a huge hammer and hit the altar with destructive force. The paladins asked in shock what he was doing. Why did he break it? Bell, with a serious face, holding a light sphere in his hands, said that there was one left, and if they wanted, they could take it. They were scum who were incapable of anything except flattering the strong, and he was a scum who happily humiliated others. They were not worthy of being called knights. Lennox said sadly that he understands he is weak, but he was so confident. Thank you for making him notice, but he will not stop. Bell thinks that he did not expect this honesty and ambition. He turned away from Lennox and said that in that case, they will meet again someday. After some time, the protagonist is sitting on the street and says that now he is also a C-rank. Thanks to the monsters, his magic power has become stronger. Sarah remains. At this time in the kingdom, Galleon is sitting on a chair. 2 knights are sitting next to him. One of them asked the Lord, what does it mean that the knight organization Karma is plotting a royal coup? Galleon with a serious face said that yes, they are approaching their kingdom with 3 B-rank knights at the head. Their destruction is their family's mission. The knight said that it seems that they have already defeated Count Slave's platoon. The second knight asked in surprise, what is the platoon of that same Count Slave? They say. The knight said that they say they strengthen their weapons with the forbidden book of pentagrams. That is why they, the knights of rank B, were gathered here. The Lord with a serious face said that they need to keep an eye on Karma. They will defeat them. The knight asked him, where is Lord Jean? At that moment, the purple book lit up and Jean said that he recently destroyed this organization. He is the next count. After some time, Sarah is sitting in her room. A maid brings her food on a tray and says that here is her lunch. She thanked the maid with a smile on her face, but when she left the room, she was very upset. Suddenly Bell entered the room and, holding a box in his hands, said that he was back. Sarah ran to him with great joy and asked where he had been. She was worried. The main character said that he had business, but in return he brought a treat. Bell puts the pie and cooked chicken on the table. Sarah thanked him with great joy and told them to eat it together. The protagonist thought with a smile that it was cute, but it was not the time to be cute. As usual, a simple lunch, probably because the old servants do not like the mistress's children. He needs to quickly start working to improve Sarah's life. After a while, the Lord asked Jean in surprise that he defeated Karma alone? If so, then he has achieved rank A. The eldest son of the catastrophe family, Jean. Servant Laser. The knights look at him with admiration, and one of them said that this was expected of the eldest son of the Lord Garayan. Jean asked with a dissatisfied face that today's topic is closed. The Lord said no, there is another mission from the king to protect Queen Reich. She must soon leave for a trip to Ace. Their job is to give her knights to guard and make her a safe journey. One of the knights asked that the warriors from the palace would not be enough. Laser said that if it were not for Karma, there would be no need for guards. The knight said that in that case, let them escort him. He thinks the safest route would be through Mount Rakata. The protagonist entered the room and told them to wait. The Lord said that it seemed like the exam was over. Bell, holding out his ID card, said that it was so, he received rank C. The knights asked in surprise, what rank C at such an age? Galleon asked with a calm face, what did he want? Bell said that he had advice on the way. There are no monsters on Mount Rakata, but it is a great place for bandits to hide, and if you go along the road in the mountains, it will take 3 days to travel. He thinks it would be better to go through the meadow of monsters. The knight angrily said that this is a nest of monsters. The protagonist said no, only Descamales and dark spirits live in this meadow. They are both night monsters, and if they travel during the day, it will be safe. That way, they can get there in a day. The Lord thought that he really knows. Bell, with a calm face, said that they should entrust this mission to him. He will deliver the princess along a fast and safe route. Jean, with displeasure, told him not to interfere, the mongrel. The protagonist thought excitedly that this was greatness. He had not seen him for a long time, but still, the eldest son was different from everyone else. He created his own scabbard and said that he was not joking. No matter who was against him, he would protect the queen. Jean, with a wild smile, asked that even if it was him against him? Bell, with a confident face, said that he had not changed his mind. Laser, with a displeased face, told him to be careful. Jean took it as an insult. The protagonist thought that this was his servant, like, he was a B-rank holy knight. Jean said with a confident smile that it was interesting, let Laser check him out. The servant thought with a serious face, how dare Bell contradict him? He will show him his strength. He ran at the protagonist with lightning speed and swinging his weapon, struck, but Bell somehow managed to put his sword under and reflect his attack. He thought with an excited face that he almost hit. He was faster than he thought. He can't defeat him yet. The Lord shouts loudly for them to stop. He entrusts the mission to Bell. Laser asks that he is confident in his decision. Galleon said that he thinks that this mission is just right for him, since Karma is already destroyed. The protagonist, with a smile on his face, thanked the Lord and said that he will do everything in his power. After some time, Bell is standing near a huge fortress. He thought that this was the Stagwaran Palace. He had never been here in his past life. The protagonist approached the gate, but the guard said that he could not enter. Bell showed his card and said that he came on a mission. The guards asked in surprise that this child was a C-rank holy knight. They opened the gate, and the protagonist went inside the castle. Reich looked at him and said that she had quite a nice guard, but she would not need him. At this time, a man was sitting on the throne in the castle. He found that Queen Reich had already left. He, with a red mask on his face, said that yes, she had indeed already left. She would be guarded by several knights of the palace, and the count's son named Bell. The man asked that the count's youngest son, he seems to be really young, is he that good? Let him be on his guard, if necessary, he allows him to use this. Fan took out 3 daggers and with a smile on his face said that killing is his profession. After some time, Reich and Bell are sitting in a carriage, opposite them are the knights of the palace. The protagonist thought that the guards called for the ceremony of the first queen in another country. It sounds simple, but in fact it is a very important mission. He cannot fail it for sure, but it seems to him that he is not needed. Bell turned to Reich and asked what does it mean that she does not need him? She said with a calm face that she just does not want to get attached to anyone. She has a weapon, she is not so weak that she cannot defend herself. Bell thought that she is more arrogant than he expected. Reich looked out the window and saw a man dressed in a clown costume standing in a village. A strand of her hair rose up from joy. She looks out the window with admiration. Bell smiled and laughed slightly. Reich turned in his direction and with a displeased face asked what he wanted. The main character said with a smile on his face that he was asking for forgiveness. He just remembered his younger sister. His sister would have simply reacted the same way she did. Reich asked him if they often went for walks. Belle said that yes, they often went for walks together. She was still little, so for now they played at being their mother's daughters and so on. Reich, fixing her hair, said that everything was just the opposite for her. She had many brothers in the palace, but she could only trust herself. Belle wondered if they were all fighting for the title. He said with a smile on his face that it was the same for him. His older brothers and sisters made fun of them, the children of their stepmother. Her mother was dead, so only they could protect themselves. Unfortunately, he understood how lonely she was, and if she needed anything, she should not be shy. Reich, looking out the window, said that she was not going to count on anyone, especially him. Belle told her not to say things like to a child, because it was disrespectful. After some time it got dark. The carriage with Reich and the main character is standing at the gate of the castle. The queen said that as planned, they got there in a day. She got out of the carriage and, stretching, said that she was tired from the trip. The gate opened and Fawn told her that she was welcome. Reich asked with an interested face who he was. Fawn said that he was the leader of the night group. They thanked her with all their hearts that she came to them. The leader of the night group in the kingdom of Ash, Fawn. Belle thought that somewhere he had already heard his name, however, if he met them here. There are a lot of guards, but suddenly a bandit, standing on a tree branch, threw a dagger at Reich. The main character noticed the attack and instantly parried the bandit's dagger. Suddenly, a huge number of daggers flew at the queen. Belle thought that there were a lot of them. Fawn ran up to Rika, parried all the daggers with his sword and said that he wouldn't let them touch the queen. The protagonist thought that he could parry so many knives. Is this a B-rank skill? Fawn loudly said for the Knights of Meldia to catch the bandits. They will hide the princess in the courtyard. Belle said that he understood everything. After some time, the knight, Fawn and Reich are standing in the castle. The knight said that they are safe here. The surroundings of the palace are protected by his colleagues. The princess, with her arms crossed, said that there is no need to protect her, she will protect herself. The knight with a serious face said that this is not possible, even if it costs them their lives. Suddenly Fawn cuts the knight's throat with his dagger, and looks at the princess with a smile on his face. He asked with a serious face, what if it costs lives? Yes, her life is too cheap. Reich with great fear asked him who he is. Fawn with a mad smile said that he is a murderer. The princess in wild horror fell to the floor and thought, so that the weapon would appear in her hand faster. Fawn with a mad, wide smile said that she should say goodbye to life. Suddenly the window breaks and a bandit flies out of it. Belle appeared in the window and told the princess that he had arrived. He thanked her for waiting. Reich called out his name with excitement on her face. The protagonist climbs down from the windowsill and says with a smile on his face that he will figure it out himself. Fawn said that he thought that the guards were far away. It's strange, he realized that he was an enemy. He was a good boy. Belle confidently said that he just remembered him. Fawn asked with a displeased face what he remembered about him. The protagonist said with a confident smile that he remembered that his name was Fawn. He uses 3 sets of lightning as a weapon. His former targets are Count Slave, Count Bermat, and Count Reisenhardt. Fawn excitedly asked how he knew this. Belle wonders if he caught him in his past life. He said that he didn't think that he would decide to kill the princess, but he wouldn't be able to hide behind the head of the knights. Fawn asked with a sly smile that he barely knew him. Does he think he can defeat him with his rank? The protagonist said that it would be difficult to defeat an opponent with rank B, but with him it's a completely different matter. Fawn with an aggressive smile creates claws and asks who does he take him for? He throws knives towards Belle, but the protagonist thought that his first attack was throwing knives. After that he runs closer to him and delivers a slanting blow, then goes behind his back and attacks. Belle deftly dodges the daggers and his slanting blow, and when he went to his back he deftly parried the attack with his sword. The protagonist calmly said that he knows all his moves in advance. Fawn with horror in his eyes thought that how does he manage to do everything? Belle with a smile on his face said that he can kill him whenever he wants, but if he wants to live, let him surrender. Fawn furiously screamed that he will destroy him. The protagonist, with a smile on his face, thought that after this, his blows will become weak because of anger, and this is his disadvantage. Push, cut, oblique, blow, blows from below. Belle deftly dodges all of Fawn's attacks. Reich thought in surprise that he was so small, but he was already coping with the killer, and she was just complaining. The protagonist delivers a slashing blow and wounds Fawn. He thought with a serious face that he knows all of his moves. He can't hit, everything is as he was told. Fawn smiled and said that it was time for a backup plan. Belle, with a serious face, thought, what is he talking about the ability of a weapon of rank B and above? The ability is that it can make a stopping electric barrier. The protagonist, holding a sword in his hands, told him to attack. He will be able to withstand his power. Fawn, with a smile on his face, took out a bottle of liquid and drinking it, said that it seems he does not know about the tears of the Dragon King. After drinking the liquid, his eyes turned white and he clutched his heart. Belle excitedly thought that this was a very rare item. If you drink it, your magic power increases several times. It will be bad if he uses this technique. Fawn, with a wild smile, takes out daggers that sparkle with lightning and tells him to regret not killing him. He threw the daggers with lightning speed and said that it was a thunder cage. Belle plunged into the magnetic field and excitedly created a green shield. He used the magic power of the shield to dispel the magnetic field, but all to no avail. Fawn, with a sly smile, said that thunder would rumble. In an instant, lightning flashed in the magnetic field and caused severe damage to the main character. He, laughing, said that he should not be afraid, he would finish him off now. Belle, on the verge of death, thought that he should not die now. Suddenly, Reich's arrows flew into the magnetic field and it collapsed. The princess, holding a bow in her hands, said that the knight sacrifices his life. In that case, she should not be afraid. Fawn ran at her with strong aggression and said that she was a devil. Suddenly Belle thanked Reich. Fawn turned around in surprise and the protagonist cut him with his sword. He approached the princess, and with a smile on his face asked if she was okay. Reich came up to him, put her hand on his cheek and said that he was a fool, because he himself was all in wounds. Let him forgive her for dragging him into a showdown over the inheritance. Belle happily said that it was okay, and by the way, she really was strong. The princess smiled and said that compared to him, she was not strong at all. If he was in danger, she would definitely help. Belle knelt down on one knee and thanked her, and the princess took the ring off her finger and told him to hold it. It was a sign of her respect. The protagonist looked at the object in surprise and said that it was a ring. Really? After some time, Belle came to his castle. The lord said that he was back. He had heard everything, that he had successfully protected the queen. The protagonist, kneeling on one knee, said that it was true, he had completed the mission. Galleon saw the ring on his finger and asked in surprise that it was the Solomon ring. Belle said that the queen had given it to him as a sign of trust. The lord thought that this Solomon ring was one of the treasures passed down from generation to generation by kings. They say that she has a special magical power. She gave him such a thing. This boy is not as simple as he seems. Galleon said that he would soon need to enter Athena. Belle exclaimed in surprise and thought that the school of the Holy Knights of Athena. This is an institution where holy knights with recognized family origins go. In their family, children are taught by ordinary teachers at home, but the candidate for the head of the family must go to school and socialize. That is, this is the path to the future head. The protagonist said that everything will be as the Lord says. Galleon said that when the time comes to enroll, he will notify, but for now let him rest. Belle stood up and with a smile on his face said that he had one more request for him. After some time, Sarah and the protagonist are standing in a spacious room with a huge bed. The younger sister asked with admiration that this is now her room? Belle with a smile on his face said that yes, father allowed it. He thought that since the Lord settled them in the main mansion, they are no longer cramped. Sarah happily thanked her brother. She noticed a scar on his hand and excitedly asked what was wrong with his hand. Is he okay? The protagonist said that he just cut himself during a mission. The younger sister, stroking the protagonist's hand, excitedly said that the dog should hurt, the cat should hurt, and Belle should not hurt. He said with a happy face that now he did not hurt. The protagonist stroked her head and thought that the servants began to treat Sarah better. It remains to think what to do next, because in 5 years another count will start a war against them. The younger sister may again be in danger. To save her, he still needs to learn a lot. For this, he needs to become the next head. After some time, Laser entered Jin's room and, kneeling, called out to him. He said that unfortunately, he had a message for him, namely, the head decided to give Mr. Bell to Athena. This is the first time that someone other than him will be given there. A war for the title may break out. And before this can start, he has something for him. Jin discontentedly told the servant to leave him alone. Now he is not a threat to him, and the fact that he is getting better is only to his advantage. Jin puts his hand on the painting, puts his hand to his face, and says that he likes to break things that are already finished. After a while, Laser walks down the corridor and thinks that no matter how Mr. Jin wishes, it is dangerous to leave Bell. He has several weapons and he defeated a B-rank knight at his age. The servant quickened his pace and said that just in case, he needs to do something. After some time, the protagonist sits on the roof of the castle and thinks that right now, the skills of B-rank weapons and above are above all else. If he can unlock them, he will have a big advantage, but for this he needs to defeat many high-rank monsters, and he does not have that much time. Bell sees in the reflection of the sword how the servant approached him. He asked if his brother asked for something. Laser bowed his head and said that he apologizes for what happened earlier. It was impolite of him to draw his sword on the Count's son. Bell wondered what was wrong with him. Too polite? He said that there was nothing wrong with it. Laser said that he thanked him from the bottom of his heart, and he had one more thing to talk about with him. He asked the protagonist with a serious face if he could go on a monster-slaying mission with him. The other knights, including Lord Jean, had other plans, but after seeing his results, he wanted to ask him for a helping hand. Bell thought that this was strange. Why would the elder brother's servant ask him for help? As the Count's son, he couldn't refuse the mission, but he'd better be on his guard. The protagonist said that it was fine, he would accept the mission. Laser bowed his head again and thanked him. He thought with a wicked smile that now the only thing left was to use the pretext of a mission. Bell asked sharply where exactly the mission should be carried out. The servant said that it was near a remote area of Maldia Ethica. Bell thought that he needed to go there to increase his magic power. After a while, the protagonist and Laser were riding in a carriage. Bell thought that ambrosia was an incredibly rare item that would permanently increase his mana when consumed. If he could get a few, he could reach rank B without having to hunt a ton of monsters. However, there was only one incredibly rare chance to get ambrosia, and that was by conquering a hidden dungeon. One such hidden dungeon had appeared near this town, Ithaca. After some time, it had gotten dark outside. The servant and the protagonist were sitting at the bar, with mugs on the table. Laser said that they needed to discuss everything one last time. Their task this time was to defeat the Leviathan, and it was confirmed that there were 7 of these C-rank monsters in total. And they needed to deal with them as soon as possible. It was already late today, so they needed to start tomorrow morning, and first, they needed to rest from the road. Bell stood up from his chair and said with a serious expression that he understood. In that case, he would go to his room to rest. After the protagonist left, Laser thought with a sly smile that he was an idiot, because he didn't even know how little time he had left to live in this world. Tomorrow he would make it look like it was just an accident. Anyway, no matter how talented he was, right now he was just a C-rank bastard, so it would be easy to deal with him. After a while, the protagonist opened the window and said that Laser should have fallen asleep by now. He created a green shield and using the wind, flew on the shield. Bell thought that the hidden dungeon with ambrosia was deep in the monster forest, where people don't go. He and the master found this dungeon a long time ago, but no one else should know about its existence. Having flown to the right place, the protagonist went into a hole in a tree and, seeing a green portal, happily said that this is it. He thought that the hidden dungeons are divided into ranks, which can be distinguished by colors. For example, blue is A rank, and green is B rank. When the knight clears the dungeon, he will receive ambrosia of the corresponding rank of the dungeon, and from it he can only expect an increase in mana. However, in order to clear the dungeon, he will need to deal with the boss. When he and the master found this dungeon in his past life, he was D rank and the teacher stopped him, saying that it was too early. Of course, for him now, it will still be difficult to deal with the B rank boss, but he cannot retreat in front of his fear. He needs to become stronger as soon as possible to change Sir's future. Sometime later, the protagonist is in the dungeon and fights a monster, a headless knight. The monster attacks Bell, but he deftly parries the attack with his sword, hits it, but without breaking through, takes out a huge hammer and hits the monster again. After that, the protagonist thought with a serious face that physical attacks do not leave even a scratch on this armor. In that case, you need to use magic. Bell takes out his sword and attacks the monster with magical waves, but again does not penetrate its armor. The protagonist thought that magical attacks are already harder to block, but what? He has never seen such monsters before, but he thinks that the monster is at least rank C. He is confused. What should he do with it? This shield, if he has a shield, it means that there are attacks that he must defend against. The fire bullet charged with mana should definitely work. Bell creates a gun Ragnarok and begins to count. The monster ran at the protagonist, and waiting for the perfect moment, Bell fired a magic bullet from the fire gun. The bullet went through the monster's body and it fell to the ground. The protagonist said that he knew it. The magic fire attack is capable of melting his armor. If he didn't have a fire element weapon, he would definitely have problems. He thought that this was an ordinary monster from the beginning of the dungeon, and already such a difficult one. The boss would definitely not be easy. Bell said that this was to be expected from a specific dungeon, but still. He thought that he was grateful for the opportunity to get such rare items from monsters. The protagonist took out a bottle of blue liquid and thought that this was a mythical drink that restores both stamina and mana. He drank the blue liquid, and after a while, having dealt with all the monsters, Bell approached a huge green door. He asked with a smile that it would be a snake or a demon. He opened the door and entered a spacious room with a high ceiling. Suddenly, a boss in black armor came out of the darkness. The protagonist thought that this was his first time since rebirth. He had goosebumps, and his mouth was dry, because the boss radiated heartbreaking pressure. When the boss came closer to the main character, Bell said with a smile that here is the boss of this place. The monster raised his huge sword and struck a lightning blow, but the main character managed to dodge. Bell with an excited face thought that if he hits him, then he is an undead. The boss struck again with a quick blow, but the main character managed to jump and while in flight, summoned a sword and struck the boss's back. Bell thought that this is another heavily armored monster that he will have to tinker with. The boss strikes again with a slashing blow, but the main character ducked, thereby dodging the attack. Bell created a pistol Ragnarok and thought that in this case, he needs to try to deal with him the same way as with the past ones. He fired a magic bullet into the boss's body, but the monster's chest was covered with a green aura. Bell with a frightened face thought that this bastard has damn immunity to magic. The monster makes a lightning strike, but the protagonist manages to create a green shield, Achilles, at the last moment and repel the attack. The boss jumped and tried to strike from the air, but Bell dodged again. In the smoke from the boss's landing, the protagonist thought that he did not have enough mana to pierce this armor. Suddenly, he saw a sword flying quickly from the smoke at him, and he repelled the attack with his shield. While Bell was looking at the sword falling to the ground, the boss went behind him and hit him on the head with his hands. The protagonist fell and the monster swung his leg to crush him, but Bell managed to dodge his attack. The protagonist drank the blue liquid and thought that thank the gods for having a mythical drink, but this was the last one. In this case, he will have to take a risk. Achilles is the heaviest of all his divine weapons, so if you push it with the wind attribute, it will become his strongest long-range weapon. Bell accelerated the shield with the wind and threw it towards the boss, but he deftly dodged the flying shield and ran at the protagonist. Bell thought that he would not dodge, because there was no shield now, let the shield destroy it faster. Suddenly, the Achilles shield crashed into the boss with lightning speed, and the protagonist at that moment jumped into the air, created a huge hammer and hit the monster on the head. The protagonist said that using the shield as a boomerang was dangerous, but it was worth it, because this blow did at least half the job. All that was left was to pierce what was inside the armor. Suddenly, the boss got up and threw off his armor, and took out another, lighter sword from his huge sword. The monster quickly pounced on the protagonist and successfully hit him. Bell crashed into the wall from the boss's blow and fell to the ground. The monster approached the protagonist and tried to strike, but Bell created a purple glove on his hand and repelled the attack. He said with a serious face not to tempt fate. The protagonist created the sword Caliban, and with red eyes said that now the real fight will begin. The boss and Bell strike, defend and counterattack with lightning speed. As a result, without causing any damage, the protagonist thought that due to the fact that the monster took off his armor, he became lighter, and thus his speed went to an extreme level, but he is not much faster than his current one. Bell made a quick dash and tried to strike, but the boss's body turned red and he deftly dodged. The protagonist excitedly thought that he was red, now he became even faster? Bell covered his face with his hand with a glove on and thought that this is not all, he has not defeated him yet. He needs more power. The demon Aegis said okay, he would give him more power in exchange for his soul. The protagonist's eyes turned purple and he felt intense pain. Bell thought he couldn't concentrate, it felt like he was disappearing. The demon Aegis asked that he needed power, right? He was weak, because of his weakness he was always bullied, because of his weakness he was killed. He should be fed up with his weakness by now, it's his turn to be the one who takes everything by force. Purple stripes appeared on the protagonist's face. At this time, the boss attacked him, but Bell parried the monster's blow with destructive force and with a furious face thought what he should destroy, he would kill them all. Suddenly he remembered Happy Sarah and said no, he doesn't fight for the sake of killing, he fights to protect her. So let Aegis shut up and give him power. The demon said that he is on his side, just let him speak and he will grant him power, in exchange for his soul. Bell glowed with a purple aura and attacked the boss with lightning speed. After several attempts, the monster made a slashing blow, but the protagonist ducked and cut off the boss's arm. After that, he made a final slashing blow and cut the monster into two. He put away his glove and said with a serious face that it was a strong enemy. He was dangerously close to losing himself. He needed to ignore using Aegis as much as possible, however. Bell picked up a bottle of green liquid from the floor and said that he managed to get ambrosia. If he drinks it, his mana should reach rank B. He thought that thanks to this, he will be able to open the first level of his unique skill. He has never seen ambrosia before. Is it normal for him to just drink it? Bell drank the contents of the bottle and thought that he felt his mana improving. Unbelievable, to reach rank B in an instant. Suddenly the protagonist feels a strong pain in his chest and, falling to his knees, wondered what this feeling is like, as if his whole body is burning. What the hell is going on? After some time, Bell wakes up in a spacious place. A pentagram was drawn on the floor, and there were columns on the sides. The teacher came up to him and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. He welcomes him to the realm of souls. The teacher took off his hood and said that reuniting with a student is quite touching. Bell, with a smile on his face, said that he was glad to see him. He wondered if this was his teacher Regius, the one who gave him Avalon, the true owner of Achilles. The protagonist asked that he was glad to see him, but why did he remember him? After all, he returned in time, because of which they could not meet yet. Regius extended his hand to him and said that it was natural. He had always watched him from here. He saw everything, including his death and reincarnation. This is the realm inside Avalon. The 5 divine weapons are kept here along with the souls of each successor. Bell asked with great surprise, what are the souls of the successors? Then where is his body? Regius said that the real him is most likely also living deep in the mountains. Avalon is a divine weapon linked to the owner's soul, but when the protagonist brought Avalon back to the past with his link, the current him lost it. Moreover, his consciousness is linked to his consciousness of this world. Bell asked, then his return is also Avalon's power? Regius said that he doesn't know, but he thinks Avalon doesn't have such a power to go back in time. The protagonist thought with a serious face. He didn't think that even his teacher wouldn't know what happened to him. Then what the hell happened? The teacher put his hand on the protagonist's head and said that anyway, he is doing a good job to protect his little sister. He did a good job. Bell excitedly told him to stop. He asked with a serious face, what is more important? Can he explain to him why he is here? Regius with a calm face said that he will see for himself. Suddenly Riven came up to them and asked, why are they going to talk about life for much longer? He wants to join. The second heir of Avalon, Riven. He went up to the teacher and told him not to worry so much. Riven turned to the protagonist and said his name. Bell came up to him to shake his hand, but the second heir raised his hand, thereby not allowing him to shake his hand. The protagonist worriedly wondered what was wrong with him. Riven laughed loudly and said that the sixth heir is so naive. Suddenly Charlotte appeared and told him to shut up. Doesn't he see that the new guy doesn't know how to react anymore? The third heir of Avalon, Charlotte. Riven put his hand on the protagonist and asked if everything is okay. This is a usual greeting joke, isn't it? He turns to Horo and asks, because he thinks exactly the same thing, right? Horo excitedly told them not to talk to him. The fourth heir of Avalon, Horo. Charlotte with a serious face said that they all know that he just likes to mock people. Raven with a confident smile said that there is no need to be so angry. Because she is ruining all her beauty, she is a baby. Charlotte got very angry and asked what he just called her. Regius said that they should stop arguing already. She aggressively asked him whose side he is on. Raven approached the teacher and asked that it is on his, isn't it? Bell, watching everything that is happening, thought that seeing his teacher so submissive, he does not even know what to say. But this only proves how great his predecessors are. He remembers that he already asked the teacher about them. The heirs of Avalon are great heroes who fought evil in the past. Adam, sitting on a column, asked them that they could not come to an agreement already? There is a reason why the protagonist came to this place. The first heir of Avalon, Adam. He said that they called him to guide him. Bell asked in confusion, what do they want to guide him with? Adam said with a serious face that he should not unlock the abilities of the divine weapon. Let him listen carefully. The divine weapon with the unlocked ability emits an incredible amount of mana. If he unlocks them now, his immature body will not be able to accept it, and he will break under the constant pressure. Bell thought that now he understands, and it became clear to him what kind of pain it was when he drank the green liquid. Adam said that he should wait until he grows up and only then unlock them. The protagonist said that he can't stop. He needs the power to protect his little sister. Adam jumped off the column and said that in that case, he will have to destroy it right now. Bell thought excitedly that he is too fast, he needs to defend himself. No, wait, he is behind him. Adam swings his sword in lightning speed and strikes. but the protagonist instantly puts out its sheath and blocks the attack. Adam said that he thought that this would clearly demonstrate his immaturity, but he never thought that he would be able to block his attack. Constantly fighting has toughened him up and helped him grow in many ways. He hands the protagonist his sword and tells him to use it first. Belle asks what does this mean that they accept him. Adam says yes, if he only uses one ability, then everything should be fine. He allows him to unlock the B rank Caliban. When the time comes, they will unlock the rest, including the A rank. Belle, holding the sword in his hands, said that he will try his best. Raven, with a smile on his face, wished the protagonist good luck. Charlotte, with a happy face, told him to take care of his little sister. Adam said that they will continue to watch over him from the shadows. Belle said with a confident smile that it was good, in that case he would go. After a while, the protagonist woke up in a dungeon. He got up from the floor and said that his body no longer hurt, and that strange feeling was gone. He picked up the sparkling Caliban and said that he would use the sword's unique ability on tomorrow's mission. After some time, Liza and Belle were sailing on a ship. The servant said that they would soon arrive at the place where the Leviathan lived. The protagonist said with a serious face that he understood. In that case he would begin preparations. A suspicious man in a white cloak on the ship was sweeping the deck and looking at the protagonist. Belle walked to the side of the ship and thought that it was still strange, because the Leviathan was a C-rank monster, and Liza was one of the strongest B ranks. He could easily deal with him himself, so what was the point of taking him along? If a powerful paladin like him caught him off guard, it would be very problematic, so he couldn't take his eyes off him. The protagonist asked the servant that the Leviathan was living around here. Laser said that the monster must really be around here. Belle looked into the water and said that it was quiet and calm. The servant took out a knife and cut his hand, saying that they just needed to throw in some bait. His blood began to drip into the water, and he said that the smell of blood would drive the monsters crazy, so the protagonist should get ready because they were already here. A huge number of Leviathans appeared in the water. Laser, seeing their number, said that there were many more of them than they expected. Belle, with a serious face, said that it was not a problem. After all, they were still C rank. They needed to split up and deal with them together. Laser said that he could not let him fight alone. The protagonist, with a serious look, asked why not? The servant raised 2 fingers and with a mad smile, said that because he was going to die here. Suddenly, an ice whip froze the protagonist's legs. Spencer, taking off his hood, said that Belle was naive. Laser, with a serious face, shouted for Spencer to do it. He, with the help of an ice whip, lifted the protagonist into the air, froze his leg and threw him into the water. Spencer froze the water in the area and said that this was the last one. He didn't think he could get out of here. Because of the ice on Belle's leg, he began to quickly sink to the bottom. Laser said with a sly grin that he would be eaten by the Leviathan. The pest was destroyed. Belle died in the line of duty. Now, they only had to take care of the monsters. Having sunk to the bottom, the protagonist thought that he could not breathe. He created the shield Achilles and, creating the wind, thought that Achilles does not just control the wind, he creates it. In the sense that he initially appears with a layer of air. Thanks to this, he will be able to breathe. Laser, the damn bastard, he did not think that he would team up with Spencer. After all, they both harbored a grudge against him. He was ready to react to Laser's actions, but they froze such a large area of the water surface. But this is not such a problem. Most likely, they could not even think that he would survive. Of course, there is another problem, or rather many problems. But first he needs to free himself. Belle, using his shield, breaks the ice on his leg, but suddenly notices blood on his leg and thinks that he probably cut himself at the moment Spencer grabbed his leg. He saw that the Leviathans noticed him, and he took out the sword Caliban. Belle thought that he was in a total minority, but this is a good opportunity, he just needs to do it. His first unique skill since reincarnation, unlock a unique skill. One of the monsters quickly swam towards him, but suddenly a golden magic sword crashed into his head. In the same way, the magic swords crashed into the rest of the Leviathans, and the protagonist thought that how long ago it was. The formation of the Star Blade, and now let the monsters attack. The Leviathans attacked the protagonist again, but he, floating on the shield and surrounded by golden swords, thought that formation a interception. In an instant, the golden swords lightning fast cut off the heads of the monsters. Belle thought that this was Caliban's unique skill, the formation of a star blade, causing several swords to float in the air, shining like Caliban itself. Their edges were as sharp as Caliban itself, and now he would cut them all into sashimi. At this time, on the surface of the ice, Laser killed the Leviathan and said that more than 5 minutes had passed. Belle should be dead by now. Spencer said with admiration that he was incredible. To think that he dealt with all those C-rank monsters with such ease. Razor, passing by the dead monsters, said that it was nothing out of the ordinary. He was on a completely different level compared to someone like him, a D rank. Let him stand behind until this was over if he didn't want to die. Spencer ran after him with a smile on his face and said that he obeyed. He would support him from behind. Suddenly, the ice cracked under his feet and a huge monster crawled out from that spot. Razor, holding his weapon in his hands, said that a nasty opponent had appeared. He asked with a worried face, "What is this, Haridba? Is this problematic?" The monster began to attack him with its tentacles, but Razor deftly dodged and thought that Haridba is a B-rank monster, to subdue which several B-rank paladins are needed. If he is not careful, he will die. The monster shot ice shards and began to attack Razor with tentacles, but he managed to dodge. He thought with a worried, serious face that if this monster grabs him with these damn tentacles, then he will be in big trouble. He needs to quickly deal with this. Its B-rank ability is simple. It allows him to charge a weapon with mana for one powerful blow. In exchange for simplicity, the ability is very strong. Using it, he should kill Haridba with one blow. Razor deftly dodges the tentacles and, finding himself above the monster's head, delivers a devastating shining blow. After the attack, Razor stood on the ice and saw the monster holding 2 parts of the Leviathan's body in its tentacles. He thought with a scared face that Haridba used the Leviathan as a shield, so he couldn't deal with her quickly. Razor said with a worried face that this monster was a pain in the ass, because now he would have to recharge his sword to attack. Suddenly, the monster abruptly hits the ice, thereby destroying it, but Razor managed to jump back and landed on the side of the ship. He said that this is bad, because now he won't be able to stand up anywhere. Suddenly, Leviathans jumped out of the water and attacked Razor. He, fighting off the monsters, thought that it turns out that there are still Leviathans below. While he was fighting the rest of the monsters, Haridba attacked him with a tentacle and caused significant damage. Razor, with a frightened face, lying on the floor of the ship, thought that his divine weapon was made for duels. He has no advantage in a fight with a large number of enemies. And on top of all this, Haridba also broke the ice. Leviathans jumped out of the water again, when suddenly Bell, standing on a shield, swoops down on them and cuts them into pieces. The protagonist asked him that it seems like he is in a very difficult situation. Is that true? Razor asked with great surprise, what the hell is he still alive? Bell said with a smile that he is so pathetic. He asked him that he seems to be in trouble here. Does he want him to help? Razor, with an aggressive face, asked what he can do at all. Haridba is a B-rank monster. It is hundreds of times stronger than Leviathans. Bell, with a smile on his face, stood on the shield and flew towards the huge monster and asked, "Is this a problem?" Haridba started to attack with her tentacles, but Bell used the intercept ability, and the shining swords cut the tentacles. Razor asked with great surprise, what is this unique ability? How could he use it if he just awakened his weapon? And on top of that, such a strong ability must be incredibly difficult to control. Bell said with a serious face that he will cut her into pieces and feed her to the fish. Haridba sent a powerful attack at the protagonist, but he deftly dodged and the projectile flew into the ship. Razor with great fear thought that she would destroy the ship. Bell with a confident face asked, what is her trump card? In that case, he will reveal his. The protagonist took a stance and said, Formation B, Integration. Suddenly, all the shining swords merged together, forming one huge sword. Ryer with great surprise, watching everything happening, asked, what swords merged together? Bell flew up to the monster and thrust his sword in, telling her to take a nap on the ocean floor. The protagonist flew up, cutting the monster in half. Razor asked in surprise that he actually defeated Herod by himself. He thought that the protagonist was too crazy. Bell flew up to the ship and got off the shield, saying that he should let him solve his problem quickly. Razor thought with a serious face that he would become a threat to Jean before long. He needed to kill him. He seriously asked him that he thought he could handle him? He was the strongest B-rank paladin, did he forget? Bell asked that Herod really hit him on the head? He had to take Spencer, who was attacking from behind, to deal with him, and now he wants to intimidate him. Razor told him with a serious face not to be so smug. They ran towards each other and struck, but both parried the attack. The protagonist flew back from his strike and thought that he was strong. Razor ran at him with a furious face and at that moment shouted that he was a damn bastard. Bell thought with a serious face that Formation A interception. Suddenly, a shining shield flew rapidly at Razor, but he parried it. The protagonist thought that he was caught. Now he can attack from a blind spot. Razor gathered mana in his weapon and struck a shining blow, thereby breaking the protagonist's shining sword. He asked with a serious face that he really counted on such a primitive trick? Bell thought that this was expected from rank B. It would not be easy to defeat him. Also, unique skills spend mana like crazy. Now, he only has enough for one sword from the star formation. Razor quickly ran at the protagonist and asked that he only had one floating sword left. He thought so that Bell wouldn't think that he would stand on ceremony with him. The next attack would end his life. Razor strikes with one club, the protagonist dodges, but he immediately strikes again and injures Bell. The protagonist flew back from his strike and thought that he has much better control over his body than him. He could defeat him if he used the Aegis, but if he uses it, there is a high probability of getting lost in the dark, in that case, Ragnarok. He shoots at him twice, but Razor deftly dodges the bullets and asks that he really expected to hit him with that cannon. In an instant, Bell runs up to him with a sword and prepares to strike. Razor thought that he wanted to distract him in this way to get closer, but he is too slow, he can't reach him. The protagonist shot back and due to this, he accelerated significantly. Razor tried to dodge, but the protagonist's sword still hit him. He thought with a serious face that he used the recoil from the shot to increase his speed. He's a smart little idiot, but all he got out of that was just grazing his cheek. Bell looks at him with a smile and thinks that he's been caught. Suddenly, a shining sword flies into Razor and pierces him through. He falls to one knee and thinks with horror on his face that this is what he got himself into to begin with. Bell walks up to him, points his sword at him, and tells him that the games are over. Let him just give up and he'll kill him quickly. Razor stands up, laughs and tells him that he'll become a threat to Jean one day, so he should die here and now. Bell asks him excitedly why he's so loyal to him. Razor remembers how he was walking across the battlefield while wounded, and a little while later, he fell to the ground and said that he can't walk anymore. Jean walks up to him and tells him that it's him, the mercenary who killed 300 or something like that people. He took out a flask with a blue liquid and poured it on Razor's body. Jean with a confident smile told him to rejoice, for he will be his master. Razor, pulling out a shining sword from himself, said that Jean saved him, and he must repay him in kind at any cost. He, bleeding, broke the shining sword with his weapon and tried to get into a fighting stance. Bell said that it was clear to him, apparently he had made a decision. He thought that he was just a sick idiot, but there was something chivalrous in him. In that case they needed to fight with all their might. Razor with a serious face began to use magic. Bell with an excited face thought that this was the technique he used earlier. It is incredibly powerful, but it takes time to prepare, he must get ahead of him. The protagonist again uses the recoil of the weapon as acceleration and, flying up to the servant, prepares to strike, but Razor sharply kicks him in the stomach. Bell thought with wild pain that this was a trap, he was caught. Razor with a furious face swung his weapon and shouted checkmate. Bell with a serious face extended his hand towards him and said no, it's not like that, this is his last chance. In an instant, a shining sword flies from the sky and severely wounds Razor. He excitedly said that it was impossible, after all, he destroyed all of his swords. Bell with a smirk said that it was not true, he let him think that he broke it. Razor with a serious face asked that he simply predicted his actions? He thought that he had a feeling that he had experienced more battles than him. What kind of hellish child is this? Razor collapsed lifelessly on the floor of the ship in front of the protagonist. Bell with a serious face said that it was close. He would have lost if he didn't have an ace up his sleeve, but he defeated Razor, the strongest B-rank knight. So he thinks he is getting stronger as he planned. At this time in the castle, Sarah is looking for the protagonist everywhere. After a couple of attempts to find him, she stops in the hallway and asks why her brother hasn't returned yet. But he should have finished the task by now. Suddenly she noticed an open door and with a smile on her face said that the library is open, Bell should be there. She went into the library, but instead of the protagonist, she bumped into Jean. She excitedly thought that she was afraid, but she needed to greet him. Sarah, stuttering, tried to greet him, but he glared at her, walked towards the exit, and said that she was useless. The younger sister with shaking legs began to lose her balance, but Bell caught her and asked him what he wanted from Sarah. The younger sister with great joy called out to the protagonist and rushed to hug him. She noticed a scar on his arm and said that he got hurt again. Bell told her not to worry, he just fought a strong man, Razor, a B-rank paladin. He took it upon himself to deal with him. Jean listened to him without interest and asked, "What's wrong with that?" "They are nothing, like a nut on the road." The same can be said about their useless, stupid younger sister. Now let them get out of the way, they are just wasting his time. Bell called out to him with a serious face and said that he will become his father's successor, because he is unable to protect the family. Jean turned around angrily. Magic began to circle around him. He laughed and said that it was fine. Sometimes even pebbles are interesting to look at. Let him try to kill him whenever he wants. Jean left them. Sarah excitedly called out to the protagonist. Belle, with a smile on his face, hugged her with one arm and said that everything was fine. She must have been scared. He thought with a serious face that it was pressure. Jean was really unusual. If you look at it from the ranks, he was definitely at the top of the B rank now, and Jean was already an A rank paladin. There was an incredible difference between A and B rank. In order to defeat him, the heir to the house, he had to reach a rank before he graduated from Athens. A few days later, Belle was standing with a suitcase. The Lord approached him and said that he was here. He looked ready to train. The protagonist knelt down and bowed his head, thanking the Lord for allowing him to go. Galleon said that Athena required her students to be accompanied by a bodyguard, so he would send a B rank paladin with him. The paladin bowed his head and said that he asked to be called, no matter how small and insignificant his request was. Belle asked the Lord that this was encouraging. Could he make a request of him? Galleon asked what kind of request he was interested in. The protagonist said that he wanted to ask. Suddenly, the gate opened behind him and the younger sister came out. She apologized for being late with a smile on her face and a suitcase in her hand. Belle took her suitcase and asked the Lord if he could take Sir with him. Galleon asked why he needed her. The protagonist said that he was worried about leaving his younger sister alone, so he wanted her to be with him. The Lord said that he couldn't allow it, because only a bodyguard could be allowed into the academy with a student, and it wasn't even up for discussion. Sarah asked the Lord with a worried face to allow it. Galleon said with a serious face that she shouldn't beg him. Belle said that in that case, please let him appoint Sir as his bodyguard. When she was with him, he felt 100 times stronger, as if he could defeat an A-rank paladin. Galleon chuckled and said that this was a serious statement. Let him do whatever he wanted. After some time, the protagonist and his younger sister arrived at their destination. In front of them stood a huge building. Sarah asked with admiration that this was the school he would be attending. Belle said with a smile on his face that yes, it was a school for nobles. They walked further and the protagonist asked her that while he was in class, she would study in their room. Did she agree? Sarah, looking at the buildings with interest, said that she agreed. After some time, they entered the room and Belle said that this was good. In that case, first of all, they needed to settle in. Sarah, without listening to the end of her brother's speech, pointed to the night's fight and asked what it was. Belle said that these were duels between high-ranking students. It was a good opportunity to watch and learn something. Sarah said with admiration that this was incredible. They all looked so strong. Belle thought with a serious face that it looked like most of them were D rank. He looked at Zororo and thought that he was a cut above the rest. He was probably C rank. He couldn't handle him. Zororo, holding an axe in his hands, walked up to Albert and said that he would beat all the bad out of him. Allowing himself to be attacked, Albert instantly used powerful magic and neutralized Zororo. Belle thought with a worried face, what happened? It felt like he didn't even use his weapon. He was at least B rank like him, maybe even stronger. A voice was heard from the crowd that it was incredible. He defeated Zororo with one blow. As expected from the heir of the House of Roth-Windsor. Belle, hearing this, was very scared and thought that the House of Roth-Windsor is the rivals of the Catastrophe family. He is their sworn enemy with Sarah. After a while, all the paladins were standing in the room. Albert, standing on the stage, said with a smile on his face that he, as the student council president, is happy about this from the bottom of his heart. And also, he hopes that they are very strong guys. Belle thought with a serious face that he is Albert, a high-ranking third-year student, and also the heir to the Roth-Windsor family, which has produced many impressive paladins. He never met him in his past life, but he heard that he reached S rank at the age of 18. The paladin who killed them is in S rank. Could it be him? After a while, the protagonist walks down the corridor. He hears two paladins talking. One of them asked that there are no more B ranks in the student council. The second paladin said that yes, there are none. The student council is formed from the top 4 in the martial arts festival. The winner becomes the student council president. Belle thought that Albert is already the strongest in the academy. He doesn't know whether Albert was his killer or not, but in order to prevent this attack in the future, he must show him, the future head of the Roth-Windsor house, how strong his family can be in catastrophe. Instead of holding an election, Athena holds a martial arts festival once a year to choose the student council members, so he must join the tournament and force Albert to admit defeat. Some time later, the protagonist is sitting at a table. Lime came up to him and asked if this seat is taken. Belle said no, the seat is free, let him sit down. Lime said his name and said that he hopes they will have a wonderful 3 years of training. The protagonist angrily exclaimed that his name is Lime? He excitedly asked if something is wrong? Bell said with a smile that there is nothing wrong. He thought that a few years later, he will destroy 3 rebellious nobles out of his own grudge, and he will be known as the Knight of Vengeance. However, now, he is only a small part of his future self. Lime asked with a smile on his face, what is the protagonist's name? Bell remembered the Lord saying that he should hide his name and status in the academy because many people would want to help him if he said his family name. In that case, studying in the academy would be meaningless, so he should prove that he can do everything himself. Bell said with a smile on his face that he was liable. He thought that he needed to hide his identity until he defeated Albert. Lime asked with a smile on his face that he was a commoner, right? The protagonist thought that the badge on their uniform showed their status. The commoner's badge was a circle, and the noble's badge was a star. That way, everyone could instantly tell the participant's status. Bell said that yes, he was a commoner. Lime said with a smile on his face that he was actually a commoner baronet, although there were so many nobles in the school that it didn't really matter. Bell said that at least in Athena there are not many commoners, usually the children of prestigious families study here. Lime smiled and said that because of this, he hoped they could get along with each other as commoners. The protagonist thought to think that he would become friends with a Knight of Vengeance on the first day. He felt like he would become a reliable ally. In his past life, he did not remember anyone who could call him a friend. It was so refreshing. Suddenly, Roger came up to them and said, "Who did he see here?" It was Lime. How unexpected, he thought he would meet his city friend in the classroom. The other paladins, watching this, asked, "Is this the same Roger, the Count's son, who is AD rank?" He asked him with a grin, "Why is he here?" Lime excitedly said that he just passed the entrance exam. Roger laughed and said that he understood. He congratulated him on entering. However, doesn't he see that Athena is not suitable for the likes of him, a commoner? He asked with a confident smile that he could get out of here. Lime began to stutter excitedly, not knowing what to answer. Roger grabbed him by the neck aggressively and asked what he meant by the strange sounds. Slaves must obey their master, did he understand? He can crush a person of his status with one word. Bell called out to him and told him to stop with a serious face. Roger asked who he was. He saw the protagonist's badge and asked with a confident grin that he was another commoner. Bell stood up from his chair and said with a serious face that no matter who he was, let Lime go and get out of here. Roger let Lime go and said okay. When suddenly he kicked him sharply and laughed. Bell asked with a serious face that he also called himself a paladin? It is precisely because he has a noble status that he must take care of the commoners. Roger asked with a confident smile, what kind of nonsense was he talking about? Slaves have only one way out, to be used by nobles. The protagonist asked that he was short-sighted. Didn't he know that an earl could fall just as easily as a commoner? Roger created a divine weapon and asked that he was not going to leave. Bell said that it couldn't be helped. Let Lime step aside. He created his divine scabbard and said that he would knock some sense into him. Roger laughed hard and said that he was a brave slave. Let him just not tell him that the scabbard was his divine weapon. He was a nobody, he couldn't even sweat a fly with that thing. Bell said that in that case, he would be worse than a fly. Roger asked with a serious face, how dare he look down on him? He, a stupid commoner, he would kill him. Bell, with a confident face, holding the scabbard in his hands, said that he should try if he could. Roger ran towards the protagonist with a confident smile, when suddenly Sylph stood in front of them and, using her magical harp, deafened them with sounds. She said with a smile on her face that there was no need for any fights. They needed to get along. After all, they were in the same class. Bell, holding his ear with one hand, wondered who this girl was. Sylph sat down on a bench, said her name, and said that she was pleased to meet them. Roger thought with a serious face that Sylph was from the Marquis family, and was higher in status than him. Suddenly, an instructor entered the room and said that all the students should take their places. They were starting the lesson. After a while, all the paladins were standing outside, and an instructor was standing in front of them. He said that during the first lesson they would evaluate their abilities. The instructor pointed his finger at the creature and said that the students should use their sacred weapons to attack the monsters. Let them start with this golem. They would measure their strength with the help of this golem. One of the paladins, holding a shining weapon, attacked the target and dealt a slashing blow, but the golem was restored with the help of magic. Bell thought that he understood everything. Everything is not so simple. After the instructor's command, several more paladins tried to pierce the golem, but they were still unable to cause significant damage. The instructor thought that it seemed that this year the majority were E rank. Will there be at least someone with magic? At his command, Lime came out of line and, holding a spear in his hands, attacked the golem with an excited face. The instructor thought that he had a spear that was not endowed with magical power. Was he really the lowest F rank? Lime tried to stick his spear into the target, but did not pierce and fell to the ground. At this time, Roger laughed loudly behind him and asked that he could not use magical power. He said with a confident smile that nothing could be done, he would show the difference between them. Roger created his divine weapon and dealt a powerful blow to the golem. The instructor said with a smile on his face, it was not bad, he was AD rank. Sylpha extended her hand and asked that she be next. She created her divine harp and created sound waves, causing significant damage to the golem. Roger asked with a smile on his face, clapping his hands, it was not bad, her name was Sylpha? As expected of the daughter of the Marquis, worthy of respect. Roger extended his hand to her with a smile on his face and thought that he should be friends with the Marquis family. Sylpha with a dissatisfied face told him to stop right now. She always thought that everyone was equal in this school, his background, status and money meant nothing. The inspector shouted loudly that there was one last paladin left, and it was Lee Bear. Roger said with a confident smile that he was another commoner. He laughed and asked what he would do without his scabbard. Bell created Caliban and said with a serious face that he did not use the scabbard. Roger was very surprised to think that this was the second divine weapon. Everyone was very surprised to see the main character's new weapon. Roger grinned and said that it seemed that his sword had no magical power, so he wouldn't even leave a scratch with this sword. Bell asked him that who knew whether it would leave a scratch or not. He approached the golem and instantly cut it into small pieces. All the paladins looked at the main character with great surprise. The inspector said was surprised that the sword, which was not endowed with magical power, completely destroyed the golem. Roger thought with a dissatisfied face that fencing was enough for this guy, and magical power was not needed. What happened, isn't he a commoner? Lime ran up to the protagonist and said with admiration that it was amazing, simply amazing. Bell said with a smile on his face that if he tried hard, he could do the same. Lime said with the same surprise that it was simply incredible. With his magic power, he would never be able to do something like that. The protagonist said that it was okay, he had talent, but in his opinion, his divine weapon was first class. If he didn't give up, he could become the strongest holy knight. Lime blushed and hesitantly thanked the protagonist for his words. In an instant, Sylpha ran up to him and asked with admiration that it was incredible, what kind of treasure did he have? Belle said awkwardly that she had come too close. She said that it was amazing, she had never seen such a sword. All the paladins approached the protagonist, and one of them asked, isn't this sacred treasure the strongest among the newbies? Roger, who was standing behind, exclaimed displeasedly. The paladin excitedly said right away that his weapon was of course stronger. The instructor said that was all for today. Tomorrow there would be a practical test of abilities. They would hunt the monsters released in the forest, let them prepare. After a while, the protagonist and the remaining paladins were standing near the wall. Roger, with a displeased face, called Bark over and asked that he was here to protect him, right? In that case, he expected success from him tomorrow. Bark adjusted his glasses and asked what he planned to use in the lesson. Roger, standing near the wall with his arms crossed, asked what was the problem. Bark, with a wild smile, said no, he expected nothing less from him. Commoners and lower aristocrats, he wanted them to be afraid. Roger, with a confident smile, agreed and said that he would send this commoner to hell. After a while, all the paladins are standing outside. The instructor said that today, as planned, there will be a test of their practical skills. They released F and E rank monsters into the forest. Their task today is to defeat the monsters. The one who kills the most will get extra points, so they need to try their best. Let them begin. All the paladins ran into the depths of the forest. Sylpha called out to the protagonist with a smile on her face and said that this is a competition, they will see who will be first. Belle thought with a serious face that she was very noisy, but he will not give up the first place. For the sake of the future, he must show his strength to others. Lime ran up to the protagonist and asked if he could go with him. The thing is, he still lacks the confidence to fight alone. Belle turned his head towards him and asked what he thinks, that he can handle it alone. He ran into the depths of the forest and told him to keep up. After a while, they came across a monster with snake heads. Belle deftly dealt with all the monsters and tearing off one tooth, said that this was the 15th monster. He thought that he was gradually starting to get used to it. Lime said with admiration that this is really amazing. He defeats E-rank monsters with one blow. Belle asked him if he had time to chat. Suddenly, another monster of the same kind appears behind Lime and is preparing to attack him. but the protagonist quickly runs up and delivers a fatal blow to him. Lime hesitantly thanked the protagonist for his help. Bell said that there were more enemies than he thought. Let him not lose his vigilance. Lime looked at the paladins who were fighting the monsters and thought that he needed to try his best. At this time, not far from them, Roger was standing behind a tree and with a displeased face said that he should not get arrogant. This was the end for him. He created a summoner's staff in his hands and directed magic towards the protagonist. A huge fire dragon emerged from the ground next to Bell. The protagonist was surprised to think that it was Salamander. All the paladins, seeing the huge monster, ran away from that place in fear. Lime said with wild fear that this couldn't be. The monster attacked him, but the protagonist quickly pushed him aside and told him to be careful. Bell took the monster's blow with a shield and told Lime to run away with everyone. He seriously wondered why there was a B-rank monster in such a place. Well, it looks like it will be a little fun. Bell summoned the vanguard of holy swords and directed them towards Salamander. The shining swords quickly attacked the monster, leaving strong cuts. At this time, Roger asked in bewilderment that this idiot can use a shield. In addition, he also uses unique skills. He angrily summoned Bark and he said that he should give orders. Lime thought with great surprise that this was amazing. This was a B-rank monster. Who exactly was Lee Bear? Bell with a serious face pointed all the swords into the air and, preparing to deal a fatal blow to the monster, told it to disappear. At that moment Bark, using his weapon, shot down all the floating swords and said that he would not allow this to happen. The protagonist thought with surprise, what just happened? Bark came out of the forest and said that his unique skills were amazing. The protagonist with a serious face asked that he was the master of this monster, what was his goal? Bark confidently said that his goal was him. Salamander attacked the protagonist with fire flames, and Bark with water bullets. When the projectiles crashed into each other, a strong steam was formed. Bell thought that he was using water vapor to blind him. He called Achilles and, using the wind, dispersed all the steam. Bark used the water disaster prison technique, thus sealing the floating swords into large drops of water. Bell, with a serious face, thought that he was not lower than rank B. Bark and Salamander attacked from both sides again, but the protagonist repelled the fire projectile with his shield and cut the water one with his sword. He thought that this was a B-rank monster and a holy knight. This is bad, it will be hard. Lime, with an excited face, said what should he do, because the protagonist can die like this. Turning around, he saw Roger standing with a staff in his hands. He thought that this was the secret treasure of the Lindgrease family, the summoning staff. He ran up to him and excitedly asked that this was his familiar. Let him stop this, because the protagonist is in danger. Roger, with a serious face, hit him with the staff and told him to sleep. Lime, lying on the ground, thought that he really can't do anything at a time like this. He remembered his father saying that his son couldn't release magic power. It was so pathetic. In his memories, Roger tied him up and shoved his face into a bowl of liquid, telling him that he was just a pathetic commoner. Lime picked up his staff that was lying on the ground and started to get up. He remembered the protagonist's words, that he had talent. The main thing was not to give up, and he could become the strongest holy knight. Lime thought with a serious face that this was the first time someone said such words to him, so he would not let the protagonist die. He had to help. Roger asked what he was going to do. He was trash? Lime with a serious face, holding a sparkling spear in his hands, told him to shut up, because he would determine his worth. He couldn't decide what he was worth. Roger with an aggressive face told him not to be arrogant. He asked that he thought he could defeat him just because he could use magic. Lime said with a calm face that this is a true statement. Roger created his divine weapon and said with strong aggression that he is trash, so he will die. He struck with a fire strike, but Lime struck back and froze the fire. He said with a serious face that he is the trash. Roger attacked him with wild aggression, but Lime deftly parried the attack and froze his weapon, and after that the weapon fell apart. Roger fell to his knees with great fear and excitedly said that he is a D-rank holy knight. He asked how this F-rank trash could stop his flames. Lime looked him straight in the eyes and with a serious face said that it was strange, because he scared him so much, and now he feels absolutely nothing. Lime extended his hand and with a serious face told him to give him the summoning staff. Roger asked excitedly that he is sure. He abruptly put his hand on his chest and with aggression said that he is from a count's family, so he can destroy his house with just his word. Lime stuck the spear into the ground, freezing Roger's knees. He looked him in the eyes again and with a serious face told him to give up the staff. He said with wild horror that he understood, he would give up the staff. He begs Lime to forgive him, he would never do anything terrible again. Roger handed him the staff and bowing his head, told him to spare him. Lime took the staff and said that in that case, let him no longer contact either him or the main character. Roger said in fear that he agreed. He promised. He bowed his head and used magic, because of which a fiery mace flew into Lime's back. He looked at him with a furious face and said that he lied. Let him die. Lime suddenly created an ice shield and reflected the attack. He threw the staff to the ground, smashed it with a spear and said, "What a pity." At this time, Bark thought that Salamander was disappearing. What happened to Mr. Roger? He saw Lime, holding a spear in his hands, holding Roger. Bark aimed his sight at him, and wondered what this commoner was interfering with. In an instant, magical waves flew past him. Belle asked with a confident face, what time did he have to be distracted? It was clear to him that Roger was to blame for everything, but it seemed like he wanted to kill him. What a pity, but he would not lose to him one-on-one. Bark excitedly aimed his sight at the protagonist and fired several times, but Belle deftly dodged all the projectiles and, getting closer to him, asked that he was at the lower threshold of rank B. Belle hit him on the head with the hilt of his sword and said that now he would hand him over to the teacher. Bark thought that this was bad, because their differences in abilities were too big. In that case, there was no choice, he would have to resort to extreme measures. Suddenly, Bark fell to his knees and bowed his head to the protagonist. He said that he was asking him to have mercy on him. He was only doing this because of Mr. Rogers' order. Belle, with a calm face, said that of course, how could he refuse an order from an aristocrat? Bark looked at him with a serious face and thought that he was still just a child, so if he let his guard down, he could attack him. Belle said that in that case, there was nothing to be done, he forgives him. Bark, with a sly smile, said that he was so grateful and happy. Belle, with a serious face, hits him on the head with a hilt, and says that, if I may say so, he sees his soul. Lime runs up to the protagonist, and, holding the thread Roger is tied to, asks that he is not injured. Belle said that yes, he is not injured thanks to him, thank him for helping. The protagonist extended his fist to him, and Lime said with a smile on his face that it was all because he helped him earlier. They bumped fists in a friendly manner. The other paladins run up to them, and one of them said that he saw Belle, thank him for helping. That was amazing, he defeated a B rank knight. The protagonist with a calm face said that there was nothing wrong with that. They looked at Roger and one of them asked that this knight was his comrade, so that monster was too. What an idiot he was after all. The paladins approached Lime and said that he was also amazing. He defeated Roger, he is so strong. Belle blushed and thanked them for their words. Belle with a smile on his face thought that this was what one would expect from a knight of vengeance. At this time, Silpha was sitting on a tree and saying that she understood everything, after all, the sacred weaponly bear. After a while, the protagonist and Lime are walking down the hallway. Belle told him that it looks like Roger has been dealt with. He said with a smile on his face that yes, he feels safe now. Suddenly, Silpha appears on their way and calls out to the protagonist. He thought that it seemed like her name was Silpha. He asked if she needed something. She said that his divine weapon is Avalon, the sacred treasure of the heroes of the past, right? Belle became very excited and thought, how does she know about Avalon? She looked at him with a smile on her face and asked what his expression was. She is right, right? Belle asked with a serious face that even if so, so what? He thought that this was the first time he saw someone who knew about Avalon. What was she up to? Silpha said with a malicious smile that it meant it was him. She folded her palms together, bowed down, and told him to show her Avalon. She always dreamed of seeing it. The sheath of a real hero, she asks, at least a little. Belle created the sheath and said that he would show her if she wanted it so much. She took this divine weapon in her hands and said with admiration that it was amazing. He asked her how she knew about the sheath. Silpha said that there was a legend in her mother's family, a story about a hero who fought with an ordinary sheath. Belle thought that it turned out that someone from the previous generation was connected with Silpha's ancestors. Lime asked with a smile on his face that he did not quite understand, but the divine weapon of the protagonist is special, right? Belle said that you could say so. Silpha gave the divine weapon to the protagonist, thanked him and said that it was her long-standing dream. Let him allow her to treat him as gratitude. She asked them if they wanted to go right now. Belle asked again that she wanted to go right now. Silpha said with great delight that yes, there is a good cafe in the city, let Lime come with them too. He said with a happy face that they should go. Belle thought that this was a good opportunity to see the city. He said that he agreed, but on one condition, that they let him invite one more person. After a while, Sarah, Silpha, the protagonist and Lime were sitting in the cafe. The younger sister was eating a piece of cake with delight. Belle said with a smile on his face that it was good that she liked it. Silpha, with a smile on her face, watching Sarah, said that she was so surprised, because the protagonist had such a cute sister. She tickled her cheek and chuckled. Sarah, with a smile on her face, said that it tickled. Belle thought that it looked like the younger sister was having fun, so he was happy. To be honest, he was having fun too. In his past life he was unable to experience the student life. Silpha stood up from her chair with a smile on her face and shouted for everyone to pay attention to her. She took out her harp and said that she would play a song. Belle thought that she was playing a sacred treasure. That harp had a very interesting sound. Silpha started to play, but in an instant, the protagonist spat out his tea and said that she was terrible at it. She laughed and asked that if it was fun, it didn't matter how badly she played, right? The people sitting at the other tables in the cafe laughed and said that she was funny. Let her play again. Silpha happily raised her hand up and shouted that she would play again. Let Lime sing something. Sarah laughed and told the protagonist that it was fun. Belle thought with a smile on his face that he was glad that they both became his first friends. After a while, they left the cafe and walked down the street. Silpha turned to Sarah and asked if she wanted to go shopping. The thing is, she wants to pick out clothes for her. Belle said with displeasure that they were going to pick out Sarah's clothes. Let them take him along. Silpha said with a smile on her face that boys weren't allowed, they would pick out cute clothes to surprise them. Lime saw the protagonist get upset and said excitedly that they could go to another store. Belle asked upset that it couldn't be helped, but let them call when they were done, would they agree? Sarah happily shouted that it was okay, they would call them. Later. After a while, Silpha and the younger sister were walking down the street. She said that the protagonist was a very good brother, she was even jealous. Sarah asked that she didn't have any brothers or sisters? She said upset that yes, she didn't have any brothers or sisters. Suddenly Evil Rain came up to them and said that he had found Sylph. Sarah asked her excitedly who that person was. She said that he was one of the officers of the student council. Evil Rain with a calm face said that why was she acting like they were strangers, let her introduce them. Even though they had different mothers, they were brother and sister, and since she had entered the academy, she could at least say hello. Sylph covered Sarah with her hand and said that she did not consider him her brother. She asked with a serious face that besides, what was the point? Evil Rain said that everything had already been decided, he came here to invite her to train. If she trained with her treasure, she would be useful to him. Sylph said that she had already said this, she was not going to participate in the war. Evil Rain rolled up the sleeve on one arm and said that he had no choice but to take it by force. His hand was covered with veins and a cut appeared on his palm. Blood gushed out from the cut in an instant, creating a blood ball. Silpha excitedly thought that this was the sacred treasure of blood. She shouted loudly for Mary to come here. Evil Rain with a calm face asked that this was her bodyguard. She was not coming anymore. Silpha turned around and saw a body lying on the asphalt. Evil Rain sent his blood threads towards her and said that he was starting. Silpha with a serious face created her divine weapon, stood in front of Sir and said that it was dangerous here, so let her run away. She reflected the attack with her magic harp and said that everything was fine, let her run away quickly. Evil Rain, creating a new blood ball, said that if she called someone for help, it would be troublesome. He attacked Sir, but in an instant, Silpha ran to her and took the blow on herself and they both fell to the ground. Evil Rain asked her what a fool she was. After all, she protected the child, but this would be even easier. He sent out bloody threads that grabbed Sylph's body and lifted her into the air. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, screamed for her brother to help. In an instant, the protagonist cut the bloody threads, caught Sylph and asked him what he was doing with his friend. Evil Rain asked that he was her acquaintance. Although it does not matter, he does not care, let him not interfere in the showdown between brother and sister. Belle put Sylph on the asphalt and told Lime to look after her and the younger sister, he will deal with him. The protagonist created the sword Caliban and stood in a fighting stance. Evil Rain asked that he does not understand why he is doing this, what benefit does he gain from protecting Sylph? He launched his bloody threads towards the protagonist with lightning speed, but Belle deftly cut them. He thought with a serious face that he reflected the attack. The protagonist attacked him and said that it is natural to help a friend. He struck, but Evil Rain created a bloody shield and said that it is useless. Belle thought with a worried face, this is a strong blood shield. The holy sword does not seem to work either, he cannot hold back in this fight. Evil Rain with a serious face shot a blood projectile, but the protagonist deftly dodged. He created a new blood ball and asked that it could be troublesome, so should he quickly get rid of it? He began to shoot blood bullets at the protagonist, but Belle created a Ragnarok gun and fired back, thereby he shot down all the blood bullets. Evil Rain wondered in surprise that he created a second sacred treasure? He knew he was not that simple. He asked with a serious face that he could reflect all the blood bullets. How troublesome it was, but he will finish it. Evil Rain created a blood spear and was about to attack, but the protagonist made a large magic bullet and said that he was planning on it too. Suddenly, Zaire jumped off the roof and said that it looks fun. He asked with a smile on his face if he could join them. Belle thought with an excited face that this guy was supposedly from the student council. Evil Rain asked in confusion why him. Zaire, without listening to his speech, said that he was using too much magic power against the child. A woman appeared next to him and said that it was a shame for him. Evil Rain with a dissatisfied face gathered all the blood magic in his hand. Zaire asked with a smile on his face what was wrong with that. After all, in a battle, it is important to fight with full force. Come on, let him enjoy the battle. His body was covered with armor, and he himself grew several times. Belle thought excitedly that he was huge. This is a frightening feeling. These guys also came for Sylph? The woman created a magic book and told them to wait, because they have work, a gorilla with muscles instead of brains. She used magic and a chain appeared from a purple portal that fettered Zaire's body. The woman said that after all, they are not here to fight. Belle, with a worried face, thought that this girl's magic power is also abnormal. Zaire destroyed the chain, turned into his normal form and said that Evil Rain has work from the student council. In a month, let him go on an expedition to Liam Forest with Albert. Evil Rain, with a dissatisfied face, said that it was very troublesome, but nothing could be done, he would come back in a month. They turned around and began to leave. The woman turned around and said goodbye to the protagonist with a smile on her face. Belle said that they left. The student council is full of incredible monsters. Sylpha called out to him, next to whom were Lime and Sarah. He worriedly asked that she was okay. She, with a smile on her face, said that she was something like that, and let him forgive her, because she dragged him into her battle. Belle asked with a serious face that she shouldn't worry about it, but why did her brother fight her? She said that it was all because that person was trying to take advantage of her. When the next head steps down, he plans to invade the wildlands to expand his territory. Lime asked that the wildlands are the lair of powerful monsters, right? Sylpha said sadly that it seemed like he needed her sacred treasure in the war against those monsters, but she didn't want to fight. She came to school to become stronger and take the place of the next head of the family. Belle thought that the next head of the family was just like him. She said that she was not his rival at all, and in general, she was not his equal, she was such a weakling. Sarah shouted with a worried face that it was not true, after all, she protected her. She thanked her with a smile on her face. Belle said with a smile on his face that she should accept his thanks too. She is now strong enough to protect the people around her. The last one he couldn't do it, so let her be sure that if she doesn't have enough power, he'll give her his. Lime said with a smile on his face that it was true, he'll fight with her too. Sylph smiled with tears in her eyes and thanked them for their words. Belle thought with a serious face that this would cause problems for Evil Rain, because if he had attacked then, he could have died. He'll show up again in a month and target Sylph. During this time he needs to get stronger. And to achieve this, he needs to reveal unique skills, he needs to go to him. After a while, the protagonist sits on the bed where Sarah is sleeping. He, holding the scabbard in his hands, said that to reveal B-rank abilities, permission from the predecessors is required and again in this space. He closed his eyes and brought his face closer to the scabbard, and after that in an instant he found himself in space. Raven said with a smile on his face that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The protagonist said that indeed, they hadn't seen each other for a long time, he had a favor to ask of him. Raven motioned for him to stop talking and said that he doesn't have to talk. He asked with a smile on his face that he wants to reveal unique skills, right? They saw his whole fight last time. Charlotte asked that this sacred treasure was a lot of trouble, right? Ragius said that it could make a shield, then a spear, it could change shape like Avalon. Raven took out the Ragnarok pistol and said that that's not all, if they wanted, they wouldn't even leave ashes from it. Belle said that he thought so too. Let him please give him a B-rank unique ability, he needs it for his rematch with Evil Rain. Raven extended his hand with a smile on his face, when he suddenly hit the protagonist on the forehead. He said that of course he won't give him a unique ability. Charlotte with a dissatisfied face told him to stop being so angry. Raven spread his hands to the sides and said that this ability consumes a lot of magic power because of the flames. He turned to the other predecessors and asked, what about this guy's current amount of magic power? Even if he activated it, he would quickly use it all up, right? He turned to the protagonist and told him to calm down with a smile. He would give him one condition for the rematch. When he can shoot 300 fire bullets a day from this gun, then he will allow him to use the unique ability. Bell exclaimed with an excited face that this is nonsense, because at the moment his limit is 100 shots a day. Raven said that he does not want to listen to any objections, let him come here whenever he can. He snapped his fingers and sent the protagonist to the normal world. Bell asked with a dissatisfied face, what is 300 shots a day until the rematch? In other words, he needs to increase his magic power reserve by 3 times. At this time, in the predecessor space, Regius told him that this condition is too unattainable. Charlotte said with a dissatisfied face that it was true, it was impossible to increase magic power 3 times in a month. Raven said that she should not come so close, let them just watch him, if he could not do it, he would not be able to win. After some time, the protagonist diligently attacked the monsters in the forest with a gun. He thought that the only way to increase his magic power was to defeat monsters. He would hunt everyone he could find. Silpha and Lime watched the protagonist training with admiration. She asked in surprise that he was good at more than just a sword. Bell asked that they were sure that they should have gone with him. After all, this was a forest outside the city. Silpha said with admiration that she also needed to train to defeat her damned brother. She called out to Lime and told him to come with them too. He confidently shouted out that yes, he also wanted to become stronger. Bell smiled, watching their determination, and said that he also needed to try. After a while, he, standing near the dead bodies of the orcs, said that he knew it, he can't shoot more than 100 times. Hunting orcs increased his overall magic power a little, but how can he do it in such a short period of time? Will he be able to shoot 300 times a day? He said with a serious face that this level of growth is not enough. Suddenly, he heard the roar of a huge monster and ran towards the sound. He said excitedly that Silpha and Lime are in danger. After a while, running towards the orc's cry, he saw the lifeless body of a huge monster. Bell walked closer and saw Silpha and Lime happily clapping each other on the hand. She turned around and said that the protagonist worked hard. Bell asked in surprise that they were actually able to defeat him. Silpha asked with a smile on her face that it was true, weren't they great? Bell thought that the blood orc was a C-rank monster, it was the highest species of orc. He thought that these two were still equal to D rank, but Lime said with a smile on his face that they wouldn't have been able to win the usual way, so they had to adapt. He surrounded him in ice with his Cositis, and Silpha used attacks. Her attacks were strengthened by reflecting off the ice. They raised their weapons up and she asked that it seemed like they were a great team. Bell said that he understood, they used a combination. Suddenly he thought that a combination? He said with a confident smile that he understood, he thought of a way. Suddenly a horde of blood orcs appeared behind them. Lime asked excitedly, what is this group of monsters? Silpha asked fearfully, what should they do? They are exhausted because they have been fighting since early morning. Bell with a confident smile told them not to worry, because he can still fight. After a while, a pile of corpses of bloody orcs lay in front of Silpha and Lime. He said that he never thought that he could defeat them all alone. Silpha asked, why is he in such a hurry? She said that the protagonist said that he needed to do something. After a while, Bell found himself in the space of the predecessors. He said that he never thought that he would come here again after one day. Raven asked in confusion, why did he come here? He is not going to change the conditions. Bell with a serious face said that there is no need for that, because he has already completed it. Raven with a surprised face asked, what did he complete? Charlotte asked in surprise that he completed such an impossible task in one day. Ray Wan called out to the protagonist and asked what kind of joke this was. After all, it had only been a day. Bell asked them if they wanted to test it. Ray Wan said okay, let him show it in a real fight. They would see if he could fire 300 shots during a fight. He asked with a smile on his face that he could use other sacred treasures as well, or was he afraid of losing to him? Bell said with a confident smile that he was not afraid, he agreed. After a while, the protagonist stood in front of Raywan. He said that Regius would be his second. He agreed and ordered that they begin. Bell took out his Ragnarok pistol with a serious face. Raywan shot the protagonist with a calm face and hit him right in the body. He said with a confident smile that Bell was slow. The protagonist thought with a serious face that this was as expected of the original owner of Ragnarok. He could shoot faster than him. Raywan shot again with a serious face and asked what he was thinking about. Bell shot back with a serious face and said that he would lose. After the protagonist shot, a huge explosion appeared at the scene. Charlotte said in surprise that he was not bad. It seems that Regius was not mistaken. He said that Bell is his best student. Holmes said hesitantly that winning is not the main thing here. Charlotte asked aggressively, What is he not satisfied with? He said excitedly that no, it's just that the goal was whether he could shoot. Adam said that this is right, hundreds of shots are not enough to fight equally. The protagonist and Raven diligently exchange fire with each other. Adam watches Belle and said that this is the 97th shot. The protagonist's magical power begins to weaken. Raven asked with a confident smile, "What is this?" "This is quite boring, then he will end it at once." Belle created an Achilles shield with a confident smile and agreed. Raven wondered in confusion, what is he trying to block with the shield? The protagonist used the shield's wind and accelerated the bullets. Raven thought with a dissatisfied face that he had wrapped the gun in wind. Belle said with a confident smile that it was useless. He shot at the predecessor and their bullets collided, but the protagonist's bullet pierced through and flew past Raven. Adam said that he combined sacred treasures. Thanks to this he can shoot flames even with a small magical power. Regius said that he never thought of using the wind shield. Charlotte asked with a smile on her face, "Isn't this funny?" She raised her hand up and happily shouted for the protagonist to hit him. Let him extinguish the old man. Raven asked with a dissatisfied face, "What is she saying? By the way, why didn't the protagonist use it from the beginning?" Belle asked with a confident smile that they were laughing at him just now, right? This is retribution for that joke. Raven laughed and asked that he hit it because he wanted to surpass him. They began to fight each other again. Regius said that he was good, because he could keep shooting. Homer said that Raven's magic power was decreasing. Belle with a wild face started shooting at him, and thought that he was continuing, he would finish this fight. Raven with a smile hid behind the fire, and said that he would not allow it. Belle worriedly thought that where was he going to shoot from? Bullets started flying at him from all sides. Raven said that it was a pity, but he could not win like that. Belle with a confident face shouted for the wind to howl. Thanks to the wind, the protagonist was able to dispel the fire. He aimed at Raven, but the wind dispersed from the gun too. Charlotte with a dissatisfied face asked that the wind had disappeared from the gun, the magic power was gone? They both shot at each other, when suddenly Raven said that it was true, he was out of bullets. He fell to one knee and clutched his chest. Adam said that it was 301 shots, this is amazing. Belle fell to the floor and thought that he barely won. Raven said with a smile on his face that he was good. He extended his hand to the protagonist, and said that he would allow him to use a unique ability. Belle thanked him and created a new Ragnarok covered in flames. He thought with a confident smile that with its help he could defeat Evil Rain. Raven extended his fist to the protagonist, and said that since he defeated him, he would definitely defeat him. A few days later, Belle fights a monster in the forest using a new unique ability of a gun. He defeated the monster, and said that now he is confident in himself again. Lime and Silpha approached him and he asked with surprise that he had a unique ability? She asked what was that great, she also wants a unique ability for herself, does he have any tips on how to get it? Belle said no, he thinks the only way to increase magical power is to constantly defeat monsters. Silpha bowed her head and said upset that it was a pity. The protagonist said that he could teach her a special training to increase her magic power, just like he did, every day. Silpha delightedly told him to teach her. The protagonist sat down on the grass, closed his eyes and said that he learned this method from his master. First, they need to sit down, cross their legs and close their eyes. He made a sign with his hands and told them to do exactly the same sign. This is the pose that allows magic to circulate the easiest. Let the magic power flow in this position for an hour a day and the magic power will grow faster. In addition, meditation will help hone the feeling of magic in battle. It will be noticeably easier for them to fight in battle. Silpha and Lime sat down exactly like the protagonist, and said that they will try. Belle thought that the effect of this would not be instantaneous. But nevertheless, if you continue to do this, the power will grow faster. Suddenly Silpha glowed with a pink aura, and Lime with a green one. Belle was surprised to think that their magic power had definitely increased. It was better not to tell them that yet. They were developing too abnormally fast, weren't they? He couldn't give in to them either, so he would meditate hard. It would also help him prepare for the tricks. 5 days later, they fought a bloody orc. 10 days later, they trained in fighting each other. 20 days later, they were sitting in the forest and meditating. 30 days later, they were standing in the forest and saw Evil Rain, with Guido walking next to him. Belle said with a confident face that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Evil Rain told Guido to bring Sylph, and he would take care of the main character for now, which would get in his way. Sylph aggressively shouted at him not to act like he was the boss, she would never obey. She attacked Guido, and Lime joined in. He said with a serious face that they would not give him Sylph. Evil Rain told the protagonist that they needed to settle things here. Belle said with a serious face that before that, let him ask something. It seems like he's going to use Sylph in the war. What is he trying to achieve? Evil Rain said that it's simple. Her sacred treasure is special and it was passed down from her mother's side. Its specialty is the ability to manipulate people with sound. With it, one can easily turn people into weapons to start a war with ease. Belle clenched his fist angrily and asked what he thought, that Sylpha would agree to do something like that. Evil Rain with a calm face said that he didn't know, he was just using her to make things easier. She was just a tool to him. Belle with a serious face said that he understood everything. He created the Ragnarok gun and said that he couldn't even be called her brother. Evil Rain rolled up his sleeve and said that even if he was angry, he couldn't defeat him with this gun. He pointed the gun at his heart with a confident smile and asked what he was sure about. Evil Rain watched what was happening in surprise. The protagonist shot himself and shouted that the ability was activating. He covered himself in fire and thought that he had released the magical power of fire into his heart. Now he could control it with his whole body. His hair turned red and he himself was covered in fire. Evil Rain with a calm face said that this was a unique ability. It was interesting. The protagonist had wings of fire and his legs were covered in fire. He shouted that it was time to start. Belle flew into the air. At that time Evil Rain began to shoot blood bullets, but the protagonist said that it was useless. The blood bullets that flew towards the protagonist instantly evaporated from the enormous temperature. Evil Rain thought with fear that he evaporated the blood. Belle looked at him with a serious face and told him to burn. He swung his fist and flew to strike. Evil Rain created a blood shield, but the protagonist pierced it with his fist and pushed him away with an attack. He said that it would not work, because his blood would evaporate. Let him give up and leave. Evil Rain laughed and bent over, wings sticking out of his back. He took the form of a dragon and said that blood was boiling in him, the blood of a dragon. Belle thought that his sacred treasure is able to change the owner's body with its rank B ability. Dragon blood, he is dangerous. Evil Rain rushed forward and said that he can be proud of himself. In a fight with him, his dragon blood boils. He strikes with lightning speed, but Belle managed to dodge. Evil Rain thought that he was sure that he would hit. Was it an afterimage? The protagonist used a magic attack and said that he would finish with this. He covered Evil Rain's body with fire and flying away, said for it to explode. In an instant, a huge explosion occurred, but he flew up and said that this fire cannot take him. Belle excitedly thought that there is not even a trace of a burn on his body. Evil Rain flew at lightning speed at the protagonist and shouted that he will cut him. Belle thought that since only fire does not work, he will use his fists. He charged his fist with fire and flew towards him. Evil Rain attacked, but Belle dodged and counterattacked him with a fist. He asked with a calm face, "What is all this?" The protagonist worriedly wondered, what did he fail? How strong is he? Evil Rain grabbed the protagonist's leg with his tail and throwing him down, created a purple magic charge. At the moment of falling, Belle created his own fire projectile and shot towards him. In an instant, a huge explosion occurred, and the protagonist remained alive. Evil Rain with a dissatisfied face said that he was a stubborn insect. He created 5 magic charges, but Belle again also created fire charges and they shot at each other. At this time, on the ground, Lan with a serious face said that this guy. Sylpha said that yes, he is strong, most likely B rank. He said that in this case, they can lose. Lan created ice walls around Guido and told Sylpha to attack. She ran up and started attacking with magical sounds. He wondered if this was a combination technique that they had used to defeat a monster stronger than them. They would hope that this technique would work. Guido hit the ground with his staff and created a magical portal and absorbed her attack, saying that it was useless. He hit the ground with his staff again and told it to disappear. Suddenly, a portal appeared next to Lime, but Sylph quickly ran up and took the blow. Guido said that his ability allows him to absorb and release magical attacks, so such attacks will not work. Sylph, lying on the ground, said that this cannot be. Guido extended his hand to her and said that he apologized for striking her, but the master wanted her to come with them. Lime, with a serious face, shouted that he would not allow it. Guido said that he could not stop him. Lime struck, but he parried the attack and hit him in the face, and then jabbed his staff into his body and said that he was too weak. Sylpha, lying on the ground, said that she should help, but she had no strength at all. Why was she so helpless? Was Lime being beaten like this because of her? She thought that if she were stronger, she would be able to help. She remembered the protagonist's words that meditation could also be used as training to hone one's magical abilities, so it would be easier to demonstrate one's strength during a fight. Sylpha stood up with a confident face and thought that at such moments one needed to calm down. one needed to grab the flow of magical power, to grow the strength inside one's body. She covered herself in a pink aura and, having created her weapon, said that it was time to begin. She would definitely help him. At this time, Guido swung his staff and said that it was time to finish. But Lime parried the attack and said that it was not yet. Suddenly the sounds of Sylph's harp were heard. She thought that her fingers were reaching for the sacred treasure. Lime said that he could hear her perfectly well. He thought that the music she was playing gave him strength. In an instant, he pushed Guido away with a spear and covered him with his magic. He stuck the spear into the ground and told him to freeze. In an instant, the ground was covered with ice at lightning speed, but Guido managed to make his magic portal. He, with an excited face, trying to hold back the portal, thought that this was bad. He could not stop it. At this time, Evil Rain said that it seemed that the protagonist was already exhausted. It was time to end this. Belle saw Lime's attack and said that he did it. This is good, all that remains is to deal with this guy. All or nothing, he uses his secret technique on him. Evil Rain asked that he was still hiding his powers? In that case, he would give him despair. He gathered a huge amount of magic and began to prepare for a powerful blow. Belle thought that he was going to hit with all his might. But if he could withstand his blow, he still had a chance to win. The protagonist created a fire charge, when suddenly, in an instant, Evil Rain released his attack. Belle, with fear on his face, thought that this could not be. His attack was much stronger than he expected. He tried to gather flames and began to resist, but he could not and was consumed by flames. Evil Rain, with a smile on his face, said that it was over. The fight even dragged on. In an instant, the protagonist appeared behind him and, clasping his hand around his neck, said that they were not finished yet. Evil Rain asked in surprise that it seemed that he had lost his vigilance, but how did he do it? Belle said that his breath was quite easy to dodge. He created a fire clone, and then went behind him. Evil Rain wondered if this guy had such techniques as well. The protagonist asked that he could no longer continue the fight. He asked with a calm face, so what? Even though he was behind him, his attack still wouldn't work. Belle thought that he was using the results of his training here. Evil Rain was surprised to think that he felt a huge magical power. Belle's hand was covered in blue magic, and he said that even if normal attacks didn't work, he would put everything he had into one blow. He let go of Evil Rain and, preparing to strike, said that this was his secret move, a flaming fist. Having struck the attack, he pierced the dragon's scale. Evil Rain thought with wild pain that he had pierced him. How could he lose to this brat? After a while, Evil Rain and Guido were frozen with Lime. Belle asked that he had already woken up, and he came to his senses pretty quickly. Evil Rain with a calm face asked what they were going to do with him now. Would they torture him? Let them do whatever they want. The loser is the winner's property. Sylpha said that she just wanted to say one thing. She will not start a war and will not do what he says. Evil Rain sighed and said that as she wishes. Lime used magic and unfroze them. Sylpha said that he should not come to her again. Evil Rain called Guido with him, and they left. Lime told the protagonist that he can't believe that he defeated a member of the student council. He is amazing. Sylpha thanked them with a smile on her face and said that she will definitely repay them someday. Belle said that she has nothing to worry about, because they are friends. Sylpha smiled and said that it is true, they are best friends. Belle thought that Evil Rain was defeated, and now that they will definitely be noticed by other members of the council, they need to become even stronger to face them. Especially if they have to face Albert. Maybe he will come to take revenge. He will not allow this tragedy to happen again. He will become the strongest in this school and will show his strength. And someday, he will defeat Jean. This time, he will be able to protect Sir. A few days later, the protagonist stands in front of his older brother and, taking out his sword, says that he is the head of the family. Jean with a sly smile created a huge scythe and said that he should be cursed. Belle thought that in his past life, he could not protect those who were dear to him. He is here to prevent this from happening again. His efforts will allow him to overcome any challenge and defeat any enemy. For Sir, he will end him. Belle jumped on Jean and struck.